I take. It's not working.
We finally beat Medicare.
Well, hello.
Welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, Annika Sparin with you guys. Big show ahead. Pete Hegseth's in a lot of trouble. He's trying to blame everybody but himself. Is he going to be up on murder charges? Well,
come on.
Come on. But how the Republicans in the Senate are reacting continues to be interesting. So on top of that, we've got a lot of stories for you guys where people are taking each other on. Tim Pool criticizing the Trump administration. Trump administration becoming the Biden administration, writing strongly worded letters to Netanyahu and then kissing his ass right afterwards. So, of course, Israel is now attacking Syria because they're allowed to attack any nation they like. And so we'll get to that story in a little bit and so much more. So, Casper, good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, let's do it. Let's get started.
Let's get started. Let's get to our first story.
I'd really like to see them suffer. I would like Trump and Hegseth to make it last a long time so that they lose a limb and bleed out a little.
Well, here we are again, Cenk. The same conservatives who salivated over the George W. Bush administration's war crimes are now coming out of the woodwork to essentially cheer on Trump's war crimes. So, Cenk, honestly, it feels like 2003 all over again, but I'm curious what you think. What are your 2 cents?
Yeah, 100%. This is one total replay. We were on the air during the Iraq War. We said, don't do it. This doesn't make any sense. Here we are, total BS, allegations of wrongdoing, needless war. Oh, it's an oil-rich country. Same exact playbook. And I think what's really interesting here, and that's why the Megyn Kelly clip is instructive, is which way are Trump voters gonna go? Are they gonna fall for it again, just like they did with George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, or have they learned their lesson? And I think that's the critical part here, and we'll see here in the story.
Well, let's give you the details and then the audience can decide for themselves. And this story really has to do with what's being referred to as a double tap or a double strike on one of those fishing boats that the Trump administration and Pentagon had suspected was a drug trafficking boat. Now, just to give you a little bit of context before we get to the reactions to this by conservatives, let me just tell you that it happened in September 2nd to be exact. The Pentagon had targeted a boat that had 11 individuals on it. The Pentagon has, by the way, already killed 80 people, at least 80 people as a result of these strikes on various fishing boats in the Caribbean. Now, some current and former US officials and law of war experts, as if laws of war even really exist or are followed. I mean, I think it's a joke at this point, but nonetheless, there are experts in that field. They've said that the Pentagon's lethal campaign is unlawful and may expose those most directly involved to future prosecution, which I personally find laughable. If there's one thing I know as an American and Israeli war crimes are never punished. Now, experts say that the traffickers do not pose an imminent threat to the United States and are not in an armed conflict with our military, which is why the boat strikes in general are being questioned. The legality of those boat strikes are being questioned. But the strike that we're talking about in particular happened on September 2nd. Basically, the Pentagon suspects this boat carrying 11 people is trafficking drugs. They carry out a strike, and then they notice that there are 2 individuals kind of hanging on to parts of the boat that had been blown to smithereens, and they were trying to survive. At that point, another strike takes place to kill the 2 surviving individuals. So because there is no legitimate war between the 2 sides, killing any of the men in the boats amounts to murder, said Todd Huntley, a former military lawyer who advised Special Operations Forces for 7 years at the height of the US counterterrorism campaign. Even if the US were at war with the traffickers, an order to kill all the boat's occupants if they were no longer able to fight would in essence be an order to show no quarter, which would be a war crime, said Huntley, now director of the National Security Law Program at Georgetown Law. Now, Admiral Frank Mitch Bradley happened to be the commander overseeing the operation from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and he defended the double tap in a secure conference call, essentially arguing that the survivors were legit targets, okay, because they could have, I'm not kidding, this is what he argued in the conference call, that they were legit targets because they could have called for other traffickers to retrieve them and their cargo. How is that an imminent threat to the United States? That's insane. He ordered the second strike to fulfill Hegseth's directive that everyone must be killed. But it's also worth noting real quick that 3 people who spoke to the Washington Post said that the protocols were actually changed after the double strike to emphasize rescuing suspected smugglers if they survived the strikes. Seems like there was an admission internally that, hey, doing these double taps flies in the face of international law and could lead to prosecution. So they kind of changed their protocols. But it also looks like there was an effort to kind of cover up the double tap strikes. So in the weeks following the attack, the Trump administration notified Congress that the US was in a non-international armed conflict with designated terrorist organizations supported by an opinion from the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel. So after the fact, the Trump administration comes out with these claims, I guess in a way to basically set them up to defend the strikes should it become a big controversy, and it has in fact become a big controversy. The DOJ alleged that because the US was in an armed conflict, personnel taking part in military strikes who were following orders consistent with the laws of war would not be exposed to prosecution. And since the first attack happened, the Pentagon has struck at least 22 additional boats, killing in total at least 80 individuals. By the way, we still have not seen a shred of evidence that indicates that these individuals who have been killed were in fact trafficking drugs. Now, shockingly, the Trump administration's boat strikes have sparked a potential bipartisan investigation, meaning Republicans are wanting to investigate this, which is honestly shocking because they've been nothing but lapdogs for Trump. They're terrified of Trump, even if he's doing things that are not popular with the Republican voters. But Senator Roger Wicker, who's a Republican from Mississippi, and Senator Jack Reed from Rhode Island, a Democrat, respectively, the chair and senior member of the Senate Armed Services Committee issued a statement about the alleged follow-on strikes on suspected narcotics vessels, saying that they intend to conduct vigorous oversight to determine the facts related to these circumstances. And perhaps that's the reason why Trump is now saying that he would not have wanted a second strike on the alleged drug boat, and even regurgitated Pete Hegseth's initial denials about all of this. He said, quote, this is Trump, "I wouldn't have wanted that, a second strike. The first strike was very lethal. It was fine. But Pete said it didn't happen. I have great confidence in him." Now, Pete Hegseth called the Post reporting, Washington Post, which broke the story. He called their reporting fake news, basically, saying in a post on X, and this is part of his post, there's more to it, but it was lengthy. This is the relevant part. "As usual, the fake news is delivering more fabricated, inflammatory, and derogatory reporting to discredit our incredible warriors fighting to protect the homeland. As we've said from the beginning and in every statement, these highly effective strikes are specifically intended to be lethal kinetic strikes. The declared intent is to stop lethal drugs, destroy narco boats, and kill the narco terrorists who are poisoning the American people." Look, at this point, I mean, if you've been following this story, you know that that's a bunch of hooey. It's a complete and utter lie. But the way he wrote that post makes you question, is Hegseth, what is he denying exactly? Now, reporters asked Caroline Levitt that question, so let's take a quick look at that.
Secretary Hegseth had denied that second strike, the reported second strike on an alleged drug boat on September 2nd, The secretary said to the president that that didn't happen. But to clarify, I just wanted you to clear this up. In his social media post, Secretary Hegseth didn't go into details about that strike. He just said U.S. operations in the area were lawful, and he said that the story and media reports were fabricated. So to be clear, does the administration deny that that second strike happened, or did it happen and the administration denies that Secretary Hegseth gave the order?
The latter is true, Abe, and I have a statement to read for you here. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear that presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war. With respect to the strikes in question on September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes.
Okay, so Hegseth authorized Bradley to do these strikes, which are illegal and fly in the face of international laws. And by the way, Senator Rand Paul, who is not in favor of this buildup to a war with Venezuela, not happy, right? He had something to say about Hegseth, saying yesterday they said, absolutely, Pete says he didn't do it. And then today they admit that he did it. You think there would be ramifications. Was he incompetent enough not to know that it happened, or was he lying yesterday? And then today during a press conference, Hegseth issued some statements about it. Let's take a quick look at what he had to say.
I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do. And by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat. And he was the right call. We have his back, and the American people are safer because narco-terrorists know you can't bring drugs through the water and eventually on land if necessary to the American people. We will eliminate that threat, and we're proud to do it.
So, Cenk, I need to get some comment from you on this, because what do you think is happening here? Do you think they're just throwing, Admiral Bradley under the bus? And by the way, you are the Secretary of Defense. You couldn't wait to see the operation conclude. You decided halfway through it, like, I've got other things to do. What do you have to do, Pete? Like, what are you up to? I mean, on one hand, Cenk, he's talking about narco-terrorists and how they're a big threat to the United States. And then on the other hand, halfway through this operation, it's like, yeah, I had other things to do.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, there are two obviously related stories here. One is the effort to start a war with Venezuela. Another is whether Pete Hegseth or Admiral Bradley committed a war crime and should be brought up on charges of murder. So are they throwing Admiral Bradley under the boat, if you will? Of course they are. Otherwise, Hegseth would say, yeah, it's a legal strike and I ordered it. Why are you trying to shift the blame to Bradley? The buck stops with the Secretary of Defense. So if you thought it was a perfectly legal order, you wouldn't bother saying, it was him, right? Okay, that's what cowards do. All this tough talk, right? Oh, you generals, you're too overweight, and too many of you have beards. I don't like your grooming, and I'm gonna make comments about your pants, or whatever the stupid fashion advice he's giving them. Meanwhile, the minute he's in trouble for giving an illegal order, it was them. It was them, you coward. That's what Hegseth is. By the way, bombing these boats is a total act of cowardice. So Rand Paul made another good point. He said, of the boats that are stopped historically, that are these type of boats coming from Venezuela, good news. A lot of them actually do carry drugs. Good news for the administration. So, some of them are narco-terrorists. Well, terrorists is a stupid word, but are drug dealers. We should stop them. We should prevent the drugs from coming in. They're not going to America. There's no way a boat that can go 100 miles can go 2,000 miles to America. But either way, perfectly happy to stop them, end the drug dealing, even if it's going to Trinidad or wherever it's going, okay? But 21% of the boats were perfectly innocent people, 21%. Imagine an error rate of 21% on any lethal action we're taking. Oh, we killed a bunch of drug dealers. First of all, Is that what we're supposed to do? Are we supposed to kill drug dealers? And didn't Duterte get into a lot of trouble in international criminal court for killing drug dealers without trials, right?
Well, society has been degraded since then.
Yeah. So now we're apparently,
think about how much things have devolved since Duterte was the leader of
so
the
now we're apparently like the head of a junta in a third world country. I don't know if we're allowed to say that anymore, but who cares, right? And so now we're just like, oh, okay, there's someone I kind of think might be a drug dealer. Let's just murder him. And we didn't kill all of them. And remember why we're doing this and having this conversation in the first place? Because the last time there were survivors in one of these bombings, the American government was embarrassed because it turns out they were innocent and they had to let them go. Oops, that means everyone else they killed on that boat was also innocent and we murdered the wrong people. So since Hegseth and Trump and the entire administration don't want to be embarrassed that they're killing random people from time to time, in fact, a good percentage of the time, they're like, and they have no evidence at all. They've never presented a single drop of drugs. They've never presented a single piece of evidence. So since they're obviously wildly acting illegally, that's why they're like, Admiral Bradley, it's all his fault. I mean, we stand behind him. I mean, when he says he stands behind him, what he's saying is, yeah, I'm standing behind him. I'm pushing him under the bus, okay? So that's the kind of cowards there. Look, guys, the most important part of this story is they're trying to start another war. Okay, this is textbook. Same exact thing as Iraq. Oh, don't worry, we have secret intelligence. Well, show me the intelligence. Oh, no, they're very dangerous. Now we came up with a new word just so we could use the word terrorism. Narco-terrorists. And are you in favor of Maduro? Are you in favor of Saddam? You sound like a narco-terrorist sympathizer, right? I've been through this movie before. Young Turks was on the air during the Iraq War. So to me, Anna, the surprising parts of this story is, why is Roger Wicker, a Republican senator, and so many other Republican senators all of a sudden care about war crimes? I've never seen them care about war crimes. Americans murdering innocent people, our military, because of the orders of some jackass in the Department of Defense, Republican or Democrat, I've never seen them care. Never, ever, ever. So it's weird that that's happening. That's interesting. Maybe it's a positive turn of events. I don't know if it's something else. And then most importantly, Anna, to me, is how conservative media is going to deal with this. Because in the old days, it was just Fox News, New York Post, all owned, Wall Street Journal, all owned by Rupert Murdoch. And they would all tell you, war is the only answer. We must destroy all the terrorists. Your babies are in danger if we don't start this war on behalf of oil companies, Israel, et cetera, et cetera. Back in the day, this seems to be mainly oil companies and defense contractors. So, but now Megyn Kelly's like, yeah, let's kill them. Kill the innocent people and watch them bleed out. But Tucker Carlson is saying, this looks a lot like Iraq. I don't know why there's a pressing need for the American people to start a war in Caracas and have ground troops there. This is mental. So yeah, they're split.
Tucker's totally right. Megyn Kelly is a dinosaur of the media elite from the Bush administration. It's actually devastatingly embarrassing. So before we go to our video, I just want to give you another factoid that's really important to keep in mind. As we all know, there's been a military buildup off the coast of Venezuela. There have been additional American troops who have been sent to the area. And there are some contracts that have already been signed that I know about as a result of Dave DeCamp's incredible reporting over at antiwar.com. In a video that he published yesterday, he disclosed that the US has signed contracts to provide meals to soldiers who have been deployed through 2028. We're going to war. It doesn't matter what the American people think. It doesn't matter what kind of war crimes are being committed. This is the real world. And the real world means that none of us matter. The rules of engagement don't matter. And the lives of our soldiers don't matter. They're just pawns for various wars that are carried out by moneyed interests and the unhinged presidential administrations. Now, with that in mind, you're about to hear unhinged commentary from the likes of Megyn Kelly.
So I really do kind of not only want to see them killed in the water, whether they're on the boat or in the water, but I'd really like to see them suffer. I would like Trump and Hegseth to make it last a long time so that they lose a limb and bleed out a little. Like, I'm really having a difficult time ginning up sympathy for these guys who 10 seconds earlier almost got taken out by the initial bomb, but because they managed to get ejected a little too soon, had to be taken out in the water. I realize legally it may make a difference, but truly, Mark, this is a tough case to really gin up the sympathies of the American people.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about the 11 people who were killed. Nothing about them. We haven't seen a shred of evidence indicating that they were actually engaging in drug trafficking. And even if they were engaging in drug trafficking, that's where we're at now as a country. That our government should be allowed to engage in extrajudicial killings, no due process, even though it's part of our Constitution. Just kill whoever you want on the mere suspicion that they are attempting to bring drugs to the United States.
Yeah.
And by the way, let me just say one final thing about that. I thought Trump secured our borders. What happened? So I guess our borders aren't secure. So much so that we literally have to bomb and do double taps of boats off the coast of Venezuela or in the Caribbean Sea. Okay. Anyway, Jake, take it away.
Yeah, she sounds like Dick Cheney.
Worse.
Yeah, we got to do enhanced interrogations. I don't want to just kill them. I want to see them bleed out and et cetera. So what happened? Republican voters or Trump voters, I thought you guys were against Dick Cheney. I thought you guys were against unnecessary wars. Now you're gonna buy the same load of crap again? Come on, guys. And by the way, another talking point that she used from the old days is, it's hard to gin up sympathy for this. Oh, it's hard to get sympathy for Saddam. Why, do you have sympathy for Saddam? Oh, he likes Saddam, he likes Saddam. We should go lose 5,000 American boys in Iraq because he likes Saddam. And you should all hate Saddam. You hate him, hate Maduro, hate Maduro. Now go die there. But we have meals for you guys. All right, guys, on whether the Hegseth double tap is illegal, this is a hilarious fact. So not only is it illegal under international law, it's illegal under US law, but the military, our military, US military, has an example of a killing that is definitely a war crime and illegal. It is when a ship is sunk and there are survivors of that ship and you kill them. It's literally in the manual, this exact example. Yeah, what they did was definitely murder. Now, I'll grant you that Israel does it all the time. America did it with the Apache helicopter video in Iraq and probably did it many, many times in Iraq and Afghanistan. But this is getting stupid now where we say, oh, okay, we'd like to invade your country because you have the #1 oil reserves in the world. So we'll pretend that you guys are narco-terrorists and we're the good guys, even though we're the ones doing the extrajudicial killings of you that are totally outside of even our own laws. But you see how we're the good guys and you're the bad guys. No, I don't see it. Saddam was a bad guy, Maduro's a bad guy. That doesn't mean we should invade Venezuela and that we should kill random people on boats.
And just to really just end the conversation about how this is about narco terrorists. Trump pardoned someone and released them from prison today, actually. And that individual, this is such an incredible story. So former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez, he was in prison for drug trafficking, and he was just pardoned by President Trump. He's been released from prison, and Glenn Greenwald is going to give us some more details on that. Let's take a quick look.
Trump just pardoned one of the most malicious and destructive actual drug traffickers from that same region, Latin America. He pardoned them. The president of Honduras, the former president of Honduras, who was convicted with ample evidence, not just that people in his country were sending drugs into the United States, but that he himself was overseeing the drug trafficking ring and benefiting from it.
Hopefully Megyn Kelly can spare a minute or two to maybe opine on that on her show. I doubt that's going to happen, but maybe in between salivating over watching people, potentially innocent people, bleeding out through illegal double taps that the United States military is carrying out, maybe just spare a moment to talk about the fact that a prolific drug trafficker was just released from prison thanks to the president that she pretends to love so much.
Yeah, we covered that story yesterday on the Young Turks. And if you missed that, there was a trial here in the US of this guy. Drug cartel leaders said, yeah, we picked him from when he was a rural congressman because he was willing to work with us. We elevated him to the presidency of Honduras. And then he knew the dozens of murders that we committed. I mean, he's one of the worst drug traffickers in human history. We just pardoned him for no reason at all. while we're pretending to care about drugs being brought into this country. And Anna, last one, if you didn't see the quote, he has this amazing quote about how he's like, oh, we're gonna shove that cocaine up the noses of the gringos and they won't even know it. So that's the guy we're letting go, but the random fishermen we're murdering. Okay, gee, I wonder if it has to do with the oil.
All right, we got to take a break, but when we come back, Tim Pool is right for a change, and we'll tell you what he's right about. We'll be right back.
All right, back on TYT. Let's go to our members on TYT.com. Scoopster says, haircut, Salt Queen. Yeah, did we get a haircut there, Anna?
Well, yeah, a little while ago. I'm sad about it, but it had to be done. That's life.
All right. I'll let you be sad. Okay, what am I gonna do?
I like the long locks, I'm like super sad that it's not long anymore. But here's what you need to do, ladies. Every 3 months, you gotta get a little trimmy trim. Just a little trimmy trim. Get rid of those split ends. That way it'll grow back healthy. I don't do that, and that's a big mistake. I'm glad you all wanted to know about that.
Yeah, no, it was very important. So we've now adjudicated that. Okay, Eclectic Miscellanea says, hi all, great to see Cenk and Anna together again, at least through the magic of TV, yep. Just Jim says, Trump's such an egomaniac. Why has he not shown any drugs or drug residue for many of these strikes? Because it isn't about the drugs, of course, and that's your point, of course. I lives in America, writes, and I've lost count of impeachable offenses for this administration. Yeah, they're not going to impeach Trump, unless he comes out against Israel, and then he's in trouble. Wang Jun made a good point, which he actually made on X as well. Remember when Megyn Kelly was outraged about the pagers and the pager joke about her in regards to Israel? And she's like, what the hell's going on here? Is this a threat against me? Against my life? Now she's like, oh yeah, murder them. I want to watch. I love murders.
Let me just say, she should have been upset at that joke. You want to know something? It turns out human life actually matters. Justice actually matters. And being flippant about human suffering and watching people bleed out to death is just kind of gross. I personally wouldn't want to be known for that, but I guess she feels pretty good about herself saying disgusting stuff like that. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, well, I guess the neocons are back in the Republican Party.
100%. They never left.
Yep. I'm kidding. Of course they never left. So, anyways, Tap says, "Is this Mike on?" Says, "Sounds like the U.S. government has learned lessons from Israel and how the people of Gaza have been and continue to be treated. Are we going to perform a genocide in Venezuela? Fossil fuel companies know no bounds." Well, yeah, Israel taught us that there are no war crimes if you're powerful enough. Gemma Lee says the point is to normalize extrajudicial killings. And it says in parentheses, thanks Obama, good point. While likely doing favors for their drug dealing friends, oil and US military assisted deportations here in the US are primary concerns here, of course. So yeah, I mean, look, now I'm speculating, but the Honduran president, he very likely worked with the CIA. The CIA very likely continues to deal in drugs. And so the CIA doesn't want to end a drug war. They love it. They're like, probably Maduro doesn't have a deal with them. And they want every corrupt leader to have a deal with the CIA so they can sell drugs more efficiently to the American people, poison us while having nonsense excuses for committing whatever other crimes they're gonna do, and not on behalf of us. I've never, ever seen the CIA do a single thing for America. All I've ever seen them do is create more problems for us, create more wars, and all for corporations, oil corporations, defense contractors. They're a disgusting, toxic organization that has never helped America once, as far as I have ever seen. And we're out of time. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Anna, so were you about to say something during the social break?
No, look, the only thing I wanted to say, and we got to move on to, there's so much other news to talk about, but look, fentanyl is a real problem in this country, and I think part of the reason why I'm so furious at the people who are carrying water for Trump on this issue and lying about what the Trump administration's actual intentions are is that it's exploiting a real problem in the country to lie to Americans, to drum up support for what the Trump administration is doing. At the same time, the very problem that needs to be addressed hasn't really been addressed in a meaningful way. Now, the Trump administration claims that they've had talks with China to try to get China to stop allowing for the export of the fentanyl to Mexico, and then it gets smuggled into our country through Mexico. I had a talk. I get along with the leader of China. He's a good guy. Okay, so that's interesting. So when it comes to fentanyl, which is the drug that's killing, close to 100,000 people per year, and meth is also part of it, but it's a smaller percentage. I'll have a polite conversation, with the leader of the country that's sourcing the drug. But when it comes to small fishing boats off the coast of Venezuela, we're going to bomb them and we're going to do double taps and commit war crimes. No one cares about us or this country. And that's the thing that really bothers me. And people are really suffering. Drug addiction is a very real problem. And I see it on the streets every single day. No one cares. Democrats don't care. Republicans don't care. No one cares. Anyway, go ahead, Cenk.
Yeah, just one last sentence. There is a 0% chance that any of those boats could reach America. They don't have enough fuel. They don't have anywhere near enough fuel. We're just killing people on boats that are going to other places. It's just absurd. It's beyond absurd. Okay, let's continue.
All right, we've got some more details on the DC National Guard shooting that took place, and I want to give you those details and more. Let's get into it.
It's not to justify any kind of US intervention. I'm actually opposed to it. I don't think Trump should be doing this. Not a fan. No new wars. We can't feed the poor, but we got money for wars, as the saying goes. Trump seems to be going a little bit into the neoliberal.
On yesterday's edition of the Tim Pool Show, he actually went on the record to say something I fully agree with, which I don't get to say often on this show. He is very much opposed to a regime change war in Venezuela, which is very clearly what the Trump administration is currently waging. Cenk, your 2 cents?
Yeah, look, this is super encouraging that some in the right-wing media are remembering that they pretended to be but in this case, not pretended. They actually, it turns out, were actually anti-war during the campaign. That they don't appreciate Donald Trump going back on his promises. Amazing. Okay, tell us more.
Yeah, and Cenk, to your point on that, I think it's an important point to emphasize. For me, whether or not I engage in conversations with people I typically disagree with really depends on whether or not they're good faith actors. Are they honest individuals? I genuinely think that people are led astray. I think our media and journalism in America is really lacking. So sometimes people are misled. I understand that. But I'm not interested in having any conversation with anyone who's just simply carrying water for a tribe or a political party or a president. I want people who actually want the facts. Our opinions might differ, right? Our decisions or opinions based on the facts that are presented might differ, but we have to at least agree on the facts. So with that in mind, earlier in the segment, Poole had explained that he believes that the Trump administration is targeting Venezuela in order to free up their supply of oil, something that we've also floated here on the show. Let's hear Tim Poole make the case.
Their country used to be the wealthiest in South America. They have a lot of black gold down there, a lot of oil. Everybody wants it. Donald Trump says we're going to get it. And that's likely the big reason for all of this. But I'm not going to be so naive to say it's just that the US is basically going, let's steal their oil. What the US is basically saying is, your stupid communist system is restricting the oil trade. We're not going to have that. I'm not excusing US foreign military operations, but I'm just saying it's not as simple as the US saying, we found oil, boys, let's go get it. They're basically saying, okay, you've bankrupted your country. The oil's not flowing properly. And you know what? There's a variety of issues here. I do think it's principally oil. And the companies are going to come in and take it. But again, I'm not justifying the old oil intervention. I'm saying the issue behind it is the mentality these corporations and the government has is, if we get a new government in Venezuela, companies can start pumping oil. Venezuela's standard of living will dramatically improve. They will be wealthy again.
So I think Tim Pool is right for the most part. There's one wrinkle to the story that I don't think is getting reported enough, so I'll just talk about it here, which is the fact that, Nicolas Maduro does not want war, very clearly does not want war. So he actually told the Trump administration, and Trump himself confirmed this, I will give you what you want. You want access to the oil reserves? I will give you access. I don't want war. Trump was asked about that by a reporter. He not only confirmed that Nicolas Maduro said he was willing to give him anything he wants, he just doesn't care because he wants more than the oil. For Trump, and more importantly, for Marco Rubio, this is also about ousting Nicolas Maduro. They want Maduro to step down. And that's something that he is unwilling to do. I guess that's the one red line for Maduro. He wants to step down on his own time and not do it immediately as the Trump administration is demanding. Now later, let me go to one more video, Cenk, and then I want to hear from you. Poole said that he believes that the Trump administration wants to gain access to Venezuelan oil in order to lower costs and inflation in the short term. And here's Poole explaining why he's opposed to that plan.
In order to be able to expand your house, move on up, build a savings, you need to spend less than you make. That's every country. You need to do more work for everyone else. And instead, the United States does not do that. The United States just says, we'll blow you up and we control the petrodollar. And I think the Republican play right now is, after Trump, they want to go neocon. They want to go world police all over again, and they're going to find reasons to do it. There's a lot to talk about there. But I'm going to wrap it up for you, my friends. I'm not a fan of the war, and I don't want it. I think Maduro's a scumbag, communist, but I think we'd be better off creating internal working structures for our economy where we actually do the work to increase our wealth instead of playing the stupid neocon, liberal economic order BS.
The neocons never left the Republican Party and are still very much part of the White House, part of the Trump administration. I think that's pretty clear at this point. But what do you think, Cenk?
Yeah, he said after Trump, they're going neocon. No, they're going neocon right now.
Yeah.
Threatening to invade Venezuela is textbook neocon. But look, Tim's generally saying the right things there, and petrodollar is a real concern, and he brings that up, educates his audience about it. And that was one of the issues with Saddam Hussein potentially taking oil, the trading form of oil off the dollar, and that was another thing that might have precipitated the Iraq War. There's a number of reasons, as we've discussed before. A fun fact, just something funny: Maduro even looks like Saddam Hussein. Like when we show those pictures, I'm like, this is like an exact replay. When we were covering the Iraq, I mean, come on. When we were covering the Iraq War, they had all these.
Oh my God, you're so right.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, look at him. Look at him. We used to cover these stories. Ben and I used to make fun of this thing that they would say, "Oh, Saddam has a lot of doppelgangers," right? And we never found any of the doppelgangers. Well, maybe there they are. Went to Venezuela afterwards. God, it's just so textbook.
Yeah.
So look, I think, Anna, there's one piece of hope here that this war is not going to definitely happen. Because yeah, it's the same old textbook thing of the neocons, and they never left the Republican. They are the Republican Party, and Trump has always been part of the establishment, wants to be part of the establishment, wants to be part of the elites. He's not trying to topple them. He was just trying to gain entrance, right? And now he's gained entrance, and he's doing the same exact things as they are, right? So, but last time in Iraq, we had oil, we had the defense contractors, we had the banks speculating. All three are still here in Venezuela. By the way, don't underestimate the bankers, because once they've got loans in some direction and they need to recoup those billions of dollars, they often are the strongest force pushing us into war. Almost never talked about in legacy media, but in this case, look, Israel's a tiny factor here. So somehow they claim that Hezbollah is working with Venezuela or some lunatic thing like that. But
yeah, there's one other thing that happened today, real quick. I got to mention. So that Venezuelan lawmaker out of Florida was interviewed, and she like floated this ridiculous conspiracy about how Venezuela is stealing enriched uranium on behalf of Hamas.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that they're trying to get the Israel First guys on their team by saying that. That's my best guess, right? But like, if they're actually doing anything with Hamas or Hezbollah, then they're goners, because then Israel First will demand it, and it's over, and he's already dead, and we're already in Caracas, right? But I think the reason why we might be able to prevent this war is because I'm not sure that Israel First is on board for this, and they're an enormously powerful group. Instead, who's on board for it is the Cuban Americans. Marco Rubio wants to topple Venezuela so he could topple Cuba, right? And so I don't think the Cuban Americans are that strong politically. So if they try the same trick as Israel did with Iraq, they might run into a brick wall. So I think that might prove critical. I don't think it's impossible for Tucker Carlson and Tim Pool and a lot of Trump's base to turn around and go, no, we said anti-war, we meant anti-war, and maybe Hegseth getting in trouble with the double tap, et cetera, might push it over the edge to not necessarily go to war if Israel's not on board. Israel's usually the key.
Oh, Cenk, ever the optimist. We're going to war. They've already signed contracts that go through to 2028 that provide food for the troops in the buildup near the coast of Venezuela. It's over.
Yeah,
it's over.
All right, just the last two things. As I like that Tim is being principled, and I'm thrilled to see it, right? I do have to say him saying like, oh no, don't worry, it might improve the standard of living of Venezuelans. Reminded me of we'll be greeted as liberators in Iraq, right? Okay, but all right, one last thing that I'll guarantee for you guys is if we don't attack Venezuela, then they definitely had nothing to do with Hamas or Hezbollah. Because if they did, this war has already begun.
100%, I totally agree with that. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll then do the story I promised you. Sorry, I had my order mixed up. We'll talk a little bit about the individual who shot and killed a National Guard member in Washington, D.C. and severely wounded another. We're learning more about how this individual was actually an asset to the CIA in Afghanistan. And maybe we should question whether or not that's a good idea. So that and more coming up. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, so we got Operation Joy coming up later tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern. Some great stories in there. I think you guys are gonna love it. All right, now let me read you guys what's going on at tyt.com. Next TYT reporter says, to be war crimes, we have to be at war. This is just flat out homicide. Yep. Tap says, I don't give a F. I want this criminal administration tried for war crimes, all of them with any connection to any of their crimes. We are not above the laws of humanity. Frankly, the US should be boycotted. Okay, I hear you, but none of those things are gonna happen. And we can't even boycott Israel. Boycott America, come on. So that would stop everything that strikes. Brother, I love your fight for humanity, and you're absolutely right, okay, in terms of your enthusiasm for it. But unfortunately, the powerful almost always get away with it. James says, I'll never unsee it now, referring to the Maduro Saddam look.
Same. Yeah. Jake, that was such a good point. You make a lot of good points, but that one really
that's the one good point. Okay. Dr. Gonzo says, why is Megyn Kelly a full-on sociopath? Like she wants the Trump administration to make them suffer? What the F? Well, she said it, so yeah, I don't know. Trump Loy says, you could hear the wonderfully infectious laugh of Edwin of the TYT technical crew in former days. Edwin was once interviewed on the main show. He spoke of his family's rough, determined journey from Honduras to the US. Not Honduras, but I remember him saying how much he loved being America and while loving the good things about El Salvador, right? Not Honduras. Never mentioning the pure, inhuman US-inflicted horrors that pushed his and thousands of other families out to survive. Here's to you, Edwin. I love you and your family forever. Wow, what a random, beautiful thing to write in on Operation Joy. So Edwin, as almost anybody from El Salvador, is not overly thrilled with how America has dealt with El Salvador in the past. Talk to folks from El Salvador. Ooh, we have been terrible to that country, right? So there's so many things that the average American doesn't know because, to be fair to them, they didn't grow up in El Salvador. How would they know, right? But that's the other amazing thing about immigrants. For all the things that America has done wrong in so many different countries, we still come here and love America and we believe in the idea, right? So while we say, please do the right things and let's help them do the right things. But anyway, I love to shout out to Edwin. Constantine Kavira says, Cenk starts sharing his 2 cents and all of a sudden the Trump administration stopped printing pennies. Is this Trump trying to silence Cenk? I guess. Will it work? Doubtful.
Doubtful.
Thank you, Constantine. And then with your super chat, I get to have a lot more 2 cents. Sid Life 365 says, it's all about oil and resources, Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan, now Venezuela. Timothy Pulliam 2177 says, why don't they go after Purdue Pharma and the Sacklers, creators of OxyContin? Yeah, if anyone is responsible for overdose deaths in America, it's the Purdue family. But no, it's okay. They gave back some of the proceeds of their crimes. They're still billionaires. So it's not like they're missing anything, but oh well. Sid Life 365 also said politicians must treat addiction by solving root causes, poverty, trauma, and depression, not just punishing the so-called international supply source like Venezuela. That's obviously true, but that requires you being smart. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Also, Box, thank you for gifting a membership on YouTube. And get a load of this, Fat Saturday and Eclectic Miscellanea with 10 gifted memberships apiece. That's amazing, you guys are awesome.
Whoa.
We appreciate you guys. All right, Casper.
Well, we've got some updates on the individual, the Afghan national who shot and killed a National Guard member and severely wounded another in DC. So without further ado, let's get to those details.
The person who committed, allegedly, these crimes, Lackenwall, had a gun put in his hand when he was a child by the CIA. Apparently, when he was 14 or 15, he was brought into the Zero Unit number 3 around Kandahar. The United States made this person into a child soldier and now is experiencing what I think is one of the most horrifically bright line cases of imperial blowback that we've seen throughout the war on terror. If the United States wants to find out whose culture is responsible for this horrific crime, it needs to start by knocking on doors at Langley.
I could not agree more with that take. Now, of course, for good reason, Americans are trying to understand the motivations behind the killing of a National Guard member, a young woman by the name of Sarah Beckstrom, and the shooting of another National Guard member who luckily survived but has severe wounds as a result of this shooting that was carried out by a National Guard. I'm sorry, that was carried out by an Afghan national by the name of Ramanullah Lackenwall. Now, he has been charged with murder, rightfully so, and he will be brought to justice for his alleged acts here. He hasn't been convicted yet, so I have to say alleged. But, before we get to the CIA angle, I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about the fact that a young woman, 20 years old, was shot and killed in Washington, D.C., robbed of her life. And we don't really know the full extent of the injuries that are suffered by the other National Guard member, Andrew Wolf. But, usually there's a quick knee-jerk reaction that becomes very political, and you have the two sides that fight each other. One side, almost it comes across as if people are trying to carry water for the person who carried out this disgusting act of violence. And I don't want anyone to think that I have any interest in doing that. What happened was an injustice, but what's important is to understand why it happened and how we can prevent it from happening again in the future. Was this individual vetted before he was allowed into the United States? We're going to give you the details on that. What was the extent of his cooperation with the CIA as the war in Afghanistan was taking place? Why was he recruited when he was a kid, 15 years old? So we're going to get to all of that. But first, your 2 cents, Cenk.
Yeah, so we've done how many billions of dollars in surveillance? It seems like we never catch the guy. I wonder if the surveillance is to catch terrorists or to catch us and monitor us. And then I wonder if this is productive or counterproductive. That's not a tough one. So if this guy really wanted to help the cause of Afghans or Muslims or immigrants, he could not have done anything worse or more counterproductive, which then makes me wonder, what was the true motive? And that's an interesting conversation.
Right. So, usually when there's an act of violence like this carried out by a Muslim, you start seeing the headlines about how there's radical extremism in the country. And look, radical extremism exists, but so far we haven't seen any evidence to indicate that radical extremism is what motivated him to carry out this act of violence. But we do have a little more information about the impact that working with the CIA, especially as young as 15 years old, may have had on his mental health. That doesn't justify what he did, but it should maybe get the CIA and this country in general to rethink some of the military procedures that are deployed in various conflicts abroad. So with that in mind, per the Washington Post, Lachenwal was recruited into the CIA's 0 unit at around 2011. So the unit's job was basically to perform counterterrorism missions in Afghanistan alongside US forces. Now, Lachenwal's squad was responsible for locating individuals affiliated with Al-Qaeda, who apparently we're very friendly with now, but nonetheless, Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. Then the rest of his unit would essentially swoop in to kill the target. Now, there were Afghan interpreters and people working with our military who might not have really seen much violence, or maybe they saw minimal violence, but that was not the case when it came to Lachenwal. So according to the reporting here, official documents indicate that he's currently 29 years old, and 14 years ago in 2011 is when he was recruited by the CIA, meaning that he was just 15 years old when this happened. Now, he said Mick Mulroy, who is a retired Marine and CIA paramilitary officer who served with the Afghan teams, said of this CIA unit in which Lachenwal was working, they were in the heaviest fighting. It was almost every day. I don't think a 15-year-old's brain is able to cope with that much bloodshed, violence, slaughter. You get the picture. It's obviously going to have an impact on someone's brain. Now, the Taliban regained power immediately after the United States had withdrawn from Afghanistan in 2021. I'm going to give you some details about Lachenwal's, involvement in that, and more importantly, whether or not he was vetted properly before he was allowed into the United States. But before we do that, just a little bit of information from journalist Seth Harp about the 0 units. Take a look.
0 unit number 3 was the one apparently that he was assigned to, also known as the Kandahar Strike Force, which was headed by a U.S. ally, a warlord named Ahmad Wali Karzai, who the top drug lord in Afghanistan is a fair way to describe him. He ran, the 0 units were basically U.S. proxy forces that operated at the direction of the CIA and the special forces in Afghanistan, and they primarily did what's called night raids, euphemistically known as night. They're more like assassination missions, and they were used extensively throughout the country to kill people that the U.S. intelligence suspected of being Taliban. Whether or not they actually were Taliban is quite a different matter. A lot of these proxy forces, proxy militias, in fact, practiced something called bacha-bazi, which was a really despicable cultural practice where underage boys were trafficked and sold. All of this ugliness is stuff that went on in the criminal client state that the U.S. American national security objectives in Afghanistan. The Kandahar Strike Force that he served in was in the middle of all of it. There's more stuff to it than that as well.
Yeah, that's pretty horrific stuff. Now, by the way, one other note about the, we're fighting Al Qaeda and all of that. What's really amazing is that while we were fighting Al Qaeda, when it came to Syria, the US was arming Al Qaeda in order to destabilize the country and overthrow Bashar al-Assad. And in an email exchange with Hillary Clinton, Jake Sullivan made abundantly clear that Al Qaeda is on our team when it comes to Syria. They're the good guys when it comes to Syria. It's just so disgusting. Anyway, but let me move on. So as I mentioned, the Taliban gained power immediately after the U.S. withdrew from the country back in 2021. But as the U.S. was withdrawing, Lochinwal and his unit specifically was the one to secure the Kabul airport, which is laughable because it wasn't secure, as we all know. We had troops that lost their lives as a result of the withdrawal and how incredibly messy it was, poorly planned. But Lochinwal, in addition to his earlier vetting to join the Zero units, underwent extensive vetting by U.S. counterterrorism authorities, including the CIA and the National Counterterrorism Center, before entering the United States, according to people with direct knowledge of the case. So look, it is very important to bring this guy to justice, 100%. But we also have to take a look at what the United States military, the CIA, what they're engaging in. Because to be honest with you, I don't trust the CIA in vetting anything. The CIA can't even keep members of our National Guard, safe in Washington freaking DC. So I'm curious what you think, Cenk, because the CIA is the very government agency, the intelligence agency, that decided to recruit a freaking 15-year-old to engage in counterterrorism missions.
Yeah. So, look, first of all, Chris Cuomo came after me today for talking about some other case. I don't even remember which case. He said, well, yeah, how come you're not talking about this guy? Where's the question? So a guy goes and kills one member of the National Guard, terribly injures the other. So the guy's a terrible guy and it's a terrible act. Where's the question, right? So, okay, so that's obvious. It's reprehensible. The only question then that results from that is, why did it happen so that we could prevent it from happening, as Anna alluded to, right? So now, in his case, probably the most likely answer is what the papers are reporting, which is that he had a very rough time adjusting here because he mainly killed people for a living, right? And now he had a lot of respect and money because of that position in Afghanistan. He comes here, has no respect or money, no ability to get a job because he got asylum, but he had a very limited work permit, so couldn't get a job. He had menial jobs, couldn't take care of his family. So all these, he had a fight with his brother, etc. So is that it? Probably. And so that's a tough one to be able to counteract. And I suppose like a better transition process, etc., for folks who helped our country in other wars and we made promises to, etc. But overall, like if that's why it happened, there's not much you could do about randos who, then lose it, etc. I mean, if you're like, there's this idea out by some of the people who hate Muslims that somehow like this is like a pro-Islam thing. Are you insane? Nothing hurts the Muslim community more than this. So the people who are hurt most are obviously the victims, the National Guard who got shot. But I would say after them, and well after them, because they're the ones who actually literally got hurt. But after them is Muslim Americans and immigrants and Afghans, because those are the guys who now everybody's going to take it out on, right? So
Can we just not recruit child soldiers? Can we do that? Obviously, there was a deal made here. Okay, and the deal is, hey, 15-year-old, work with us. And eventually, when this war is over, you get entry to the United States. How about we don't do that?
Yeah, no, there's no way
Am I
they're not going to do
asking
that.
too much? Am I asking too much? How about we don't employ child soldiers?
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know what the CIA is good for.
Nothing.
So I know that they're supposed to be secret and stuff, but I mean, like in the history books, I've never heard of our CIA ever helping America, ever. All I hear is story after story about, a coup against a democratically elected person because the banana company wanted it, the oil company wanted it. The CIA doesn't even work for us. They work for the multinational corporations that fund our politicians. So now they have child soldiers in Afghanistan and that blew up in our face. Oh, nobody could have seen that coming, right? And look, the guy worked with the CIA. So it does make me wonder. I mean, this deeply, deeply counterproductive thing to the Muslim American community happens when, boy, some forces really, really wanted it. Like, God, it's so well timed to be able to say the Muslims, the immigrants, all these things, right? And so now we have it. Congratulations, CIA. I don't know what happened there, but I do like most likely answer is he was disgruntled with how life was going. Okay, but either way, hold on, Anna. One last thing. Either way, whether they plucked him as a child soldier and poisoned his mind, and then all he knows is how to kill, and then we bring him here and then he kills people, or the CIA put him up to, which is less likely. Either way, it's definitely the CIA's fault. And you chalk up another disaster from the most toxic organization in the history of the country.
In January of 2024, a volunteer wrote the following email. So he had a bunch of jobs. So let's go to graphic 4. He held jobs for brief periods and hosted gatherings at his home, the volunteer said. But by 2023, he began isolating himself and appeared defeated by the challenges of finding steady work and adapting to life in the United States. Let me just note, plenty of Americans are struggling in the United States, and they don't carry out acts of violence like murder as a result of that. But in January of 2024, the volunteer wrote the following in an email. Quote, he spends most of his time in his darkened bedroom, not speaking to anyone, not even his wife and older kids. I personally believe that he's suffering from both PTSD and from his work with the US military in Afghanistan. 15-year-olds, minors, are not suited to see that level of death and destruction, to actually take part in it, which is what he was doing at the behest of the CIA. Now, I just want to note some other things real quick. So the Washington Post also reported that Lachenwall had refused many of the entry-level jobs available to him as a recent immigrant, but the Post did not explain what those jobs were, nor did they explain why he refused. On November 26th, Lachenwall allegedly shot the National Guard members, killing one of them, Sarah Beckstrom. Beckstrom was killed. Wolf is recovering from severe injuries. But notably, the shooting took place. This is important. The shooting took place just 2 blocks from the White House. You would assume that that area is just flooded with law enforcement, right? That flooded with members of the intelligence community, Secret Service. But friend of the show, Ken Klippenstein, referred to the location as the most heavily surveilled and guarded place on earth. He argues the suspect is a textbook profile of the very kind of attacker this sprawling, multi-billion-dollar national and homeland security apparatus is supposed to catch. And then he goes on to list the institutions that failed to prevent the shooting. That includes the Capitol Police, the CIA, the FBI, the National Counterterrorism Center, the NSA, the Secret Service. And I want to repeat, this is not to take the blame away from the guy who carried out the act of violence. But if we want to ask ourselves, how was he able to do that? What can we do to prevent it from happening in the future? Maybe we should question all of those 3-letter government agencies our taxpayer dollars go toward, yet they fail to keep us safe time and time again. Anyway, that's meanwhile, you have Kristi Noem and others exploiting the situation to be even more restrictive when it comes to immigration, which is par for the course. But that's all I have on this.
Yeah, and she uses terrible words, as Trump does, everybody does. So, all right, guys, two things about it. So surveillance, we're told we have to give multi-billion-dollar contract after contract after contract. And then if anyone that's bothering the powerful does anything wrong, oh, look at this, we found this new piece of evidence, right? And everybody's being surveilled and everybody's being monitored. But golly gee, CIA-trained terrorists are the only ones that could escape that dragnet. So if the surveillance never catches the terrorists, what's the surveillance for? That's a good question. That question will never be asked in Washington, where they'll just sign a blank check over to Palantir and other places, other companies that will then use it to terrorize us and to never actually protect us. And guys, there's differences. The FBI catches a lot of bad guys. They do things that are wrong too. But at least we've shown on this show dozens of times, hey, look, FBI actually stopped that plot. Nice job, FBI, okay? The CIA, I don't know what they're good for at all. So which leads to the second point. So everybody has a bunch of different parts of their identity, right? And people use those different parts whenever they want to make a political point. So this guy was, for example, male. He was Afghan, he was young, he was Muslim, he was an immigrant, and he was CIA trained. Okay, so what has our politicians and our media decided to focus on? Not the young male part, which is what is the connective tissue to almost every single mass shooter. Not the guns, that's not connective tissue, not any of that, right? No, Afghan, Muslim, immigrant, attack. It's because of that. Now, do you think it's more likely that he did this because he's an Afghan and all Afghans are wild-eyed terrorists? Or is it more likely that the part of his identity that mattered the most in this shooting was that he was trained by the CIA to murder people at the age of 15? I would argue the CIA training is the most relevant part of his identity as it regards to this shooting. But all of American media and all of American politicians disagree. They go, the Muslim. Remember, you have to hate all of them because hating other people that didn't do this somehow will prevent this. By the way, if you said it about any other religion, of course, everyone would be horrified, right? You say it about Muslims, everybody's like, yeah, it's the Muslims. No, they're lying to you. And they're doing it so that the Palantirs of the world can rob you blind, the CIA can screw you over, and they could do God knows what with our national treasure.
When we come back from the break, we'll talk a little bit about how Trump is allegedly wagging his finger at Benjamin Netanyahu as he prepares to visit the White House for the 5th time in less than a year of Trump's second term. We'll be right back.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Rich and powerful men abusing, assaulting, and abandoning young women. These rich and powerful men donate to the politicians in Washington, D.C., play golf with the elites in Washington, D.C. They are foreign leaders who we don't want to offend. They interact with our intelligence agencies that we don't want to disobey. There is something rotten in Washington.
And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
All those congressmen you just saw there are on the record as protecting the child rapists who were clients of Epstein. They have not prosecuted a single person outside of Epstein and Maxwell.
Yep.
Not one.
Is Trump engaging in this cover-up because he's in the Epstein files?
I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff.
So as the government keeps telling us, yeah, there's other people. Yeah, they raped those girls. So what? We're gonna cover up for them. But why are you guys so mad?
A nation that chooses impunity for the rich and the powerful at the expense of our children is a nation that has lost its moral purpose. Are you on the side of the people? Are you on the side of America's children? Or are you on the side of the rich and powerful who've had their thumb on the scales and shafted Americans for decades?
The rest of the news media says you should not fight for positive change. If you do, you're not really a reporter or a journalist, because reporters and journalists don't care what happens. I don't agree. That's not written anywhere. That's not a law. It's just a rule that they invented so that reporters didn't actually challenge the people that are in power. Well, we don't agree with that. We think we should challenge the people in power, that actually makes you a better journalist, not a worse one. In a media landscape poisoned by corporate influence, only one show stands apart from the rest, The Young Turks. As the longest running daily news show on the internet, The Young Turks is an impactful voice of unfiltered truth, one you can trust to deliver the daily news with authenticity and honesty. For nearly 2 decades, TYT has been breaking the mold of media. We're not here to echo the powerful or the elite, we're here to challenge them. Our mission is to give you accurate news, fight the establishment, and cover stories that mainstream media keeps you in the dark about, which matter to your everyday life. We've remained a leader in online news because of our established credibility with an engaged audience looking for alternative media that represents the real concerns of everyday Americans. Listen to The Young Turks, a news show that only answers to you on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
How do you know if you're a populist? Easy. Do you work for the donor class? You don't? Great, you're a populist. Okay, so the establishment takes money from the donors and serves the donors. A mainstream media takes money from advertisers, and they are giant corporations themselves, and they work for themselves, and they work for the powerful. If you care about the average person, and you want the average person to have better health care, better wages, a better life, and you hate corruption, congrats, you're a populist.
I'm humping this thing like a young dog on old furniture.
Back on the online news show, The Young Turks. Cenk Uygur Experiment with you guys. One of our sponsors is Chapter, and they help you pick out a Medicare plan. Even if you already have one, they confirm whether it's the right one for you, and if they do, then great, you made an excellent decision. If not, they help you switch, and people are saving on average $1,100 per year. No reason not to do it. It's free. We researched it for you guys. We think they're the best broker. 20-minute call and it could save you a ton of money. 707 TYT help. 707 TYT help. All right, Anna, what's next?
What's next is more of the same, and it's this pretend reporting about how Trump is really trying to rein in Netanyahu. Right. Let's get into it.
Funerals are being held for 13 Syrians killed during an Israeli raid in the southern Syrian village of Beit Jin. The Israeli military says its troops were targeting members of an armed group there when both sides exchanged gunfire. Residents say Israeli forces killed civilians, including a family of 5. 6 Israeli soldiers and at least 25 Syrians were injured. The Israeli troops have been evacuated. Villagers are fleeing the area as Israeli drones now fly overhead.
Israel is a despicable terror state, and President Donald Trump is pretending like he's concerned about it. Cenk, what are your 2 cents?
Yeah, so Israel's occupying a portion of Syria. Did you guys even know that? National media is covering that up. This was outside of the area they're already occupying, so it was illegal in 2 different ways. But Israel reserves the right to invade any neighbor and attack any country and kill any of their citizens. The question is are we going to aid and abet that? The answer historically has been overwhelmingly yes. In this case, Trump is claiming that he's not going to. Let's find out.
Now, officials inside the White House are allegedly alarmed. Ooh, they're so alarmed by Israel's continued military operations inside Syria. Because what? You thought that they weren't capable of that? I mean, they've slaughtered tens of thousands of people in Gaza. They're annexing land in Lebanon. They're annexing land in the West. This is part and parcel of what Israel is. But yeah, sure. They're very, very concerned. They're alarmed by it. Now, as you probably saw in that video, the IDF carried out a raid in Syria that killed 13 people. Unsurprisingly, many of them happen to be civilians. Again, part and parcel of what Israel is. This is their identity. But what are they actually alarmed about? Like, is it enough alarm to actually do something about it? I doubt it. So, as we know, Donald Trump has gotten incredibly cozy with a so-called former al-Qaeda terrorist, Ahmed al-Shara, who is now the leader of Syria. Now, Israel used al-Shara's takeover as the excuse to essentially invade southwestern Syria and take land. And they've been occupying that land ever since. That's why the proxy war that took place in Syria sought to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. It was really about the various international actors, whether you're talking about Turkey or Israel, wanting a piece of Syrian land. So since the fall of Assad in December of last year, 2024, Israeli forces have occupied a piece of southern Syria that was previously a UN patrolled buffer zone under a 1974 disengagement agreement. Trump, meanwhile, hoped that al-Shara would engage in the peace process with Israel. But the latest IDF raid complicates things a little bit, right? The airstrikes that killed 13 people, unsurprisingly, infuriated the Syrian government and led to calls for retaliation against Israel. I mean, look, al-Shara has bowed his head to Israel. And as Israel has annexed land from Syria, he's basically sat by and allowed it to happen. So I'm not really a big believer that al-Shara is going to put a stop to what Israel is doing. That's laughable to say the least. But US officials say that Israel didn't even give them any prior warning about the military operation. Why would they? We're Israel's bitch. Trump is Israel's bitch. And by the way, Biden was Israel's bitch. Obama was Israel's bitch. This country is occupied by a foreign country, and that happens to be Israel. With that in mind, now the Trump administration is concerned that Israel's repeated strikes inside Syria risk destabilizing the country and undermining hopes of an Israel-Syria security agreement, two senior US officials tell Axios. These anonymous government officials say that Benjamin Netanyahu's belligerence has become a major liability. Syria doesn't want problems with Israel. This isn't Lebanon. Oh, so Lebanon wants problems with Israel? Because my understanding is the government of Lebanon is trying to do anything and everything necessary to appease Israel, but it's never enough. And disarming Hezbollah, which is what Israel is demanding, could lead to a massive civil war in Lebanon, which honestly I think Israel wants. We are trying to tell Bibi he has to stop this, because if he continues, he will self-destruct, miss a huge diplomatic opportunity, and turn the new Syrian government into an enemy. They don't care about friendship with the Syrian government. They want the land. Like, what a joke. Jake, jump in, please.
Yeah. So look, this has been the same pattern in the Middle East since 1948. The Arabs, because they're so vicious, have attacked Israel over and over again. And they've killed at a 10 to 1, 100 to 1, 1,000 to 1 ratio. And they've taken more and more Israeli land. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. It's the exact opposite. Did the American media ever explain to you guys that, well, there's all this talk of the Arabs and that they're such terrorists and they're the worst, etc. No, Israel has attacked in 1948, 1967, and now they've used October 7th in the beginning as legitimate defense, and then later as an excuse to take half of Gaza. They have 53% of it, to take a portion of Lebanon, take a portion of Syria. All they ever do is attack, take land. So this whole conversation is nonsense. They're like, oh, it's weird because it's Israel said they wanted to disarm Hezbollah and Hamas that were in Syria, but they don't exist in Syria anymore. They've been wiped out. And they barely even existed in the first place, but Syria was mainly used as a conduit to get weapons to Lebanon. Okay, Israel's upset about that, I get that, right? But okay, those roads are destroyed, Hamas and Hezbollah are destroyed. They have peace with Syria. So why are they still going? Because it was never about peace, and it was never about Hamas or Hezbollah. It was always about land. It's not complicated. That's what Israel does every single time. Claim to be the victim, slaughter at 10, 100, or 1,000 times the rate of their neighbors that they get into a conflict with. They can murder so many more Arabs than Israelis are harmed. Like, again, sometimes 1,000-to-1 ratio. Kill, 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 and take their land. And so that's what they're doing in Syria. They're taking more land. I solved it. It's not complicated at all. That's what they're doing in Lebanon. That's what they did in Gaza. They're annexing the West Bank right now. Our media almost never talks about it. They already voted to annex the West Bank. They already voted to eliminate the Palestinians and never allow them to exist as a state. So that's the vicious Israeli government that constantly wants war so they can acquire more land. And they think, look, we neutered all of these people. We used America to destroy the militaries of all of our neighbors, so now they can't resist us at all. And then ironically, we'll say they're not disarmed enough. I'm going to take more of their land in an effort to disarm them for self-defense. There's no self-defense at all happening in Syria. It's the warmonger Israeli state that is acquiring more land of its neighbors, as all fascist imperial empires do. Now we get to the specifics of Trump's strategy, and there's one important thing you guys got to know about. That's a resignation in the Israeli government that might make a huge difference. I'll get to that in a second. But Anna, what did you want to say?
Well, let me present what Trump is saying, okay? Because I haven't even gotten to that. In a post on Truth Social yesterday, he praised Syria's new leader. Remember, this is a guy who was fighting our soldiers, our troops in Iraq as an Al-Qaeda terrorist. I want to be clear about that, but nonetheless, he's praising him now on social media. So he says that the United States is very satisfied with the results displayed through hard work and determination in the country of Syria. We are doing everything within our power to make sure the government of Syria continues to do what was intended, which is substantial, in order to build a true and prosperous country. One of the things that has helped them greatly was my termination of very strong and biting sanctions. I believe this was truly appreciated by Syria, its leadership, and its people. It is very important that Israel maintain a strong and true dialogue with Syria, and that nothing takes place that will interfere with Syria's evolution into a prosperous state. The new president of Syria, Ahmed al-Shara, is working diligently to make sure good things happen and that both Syria and Israel will have a long and prosperous relationship together. This is a historic opportunity and adds to the success already attained for peace in the Middle East. By the way, before you comment on the Syria angle, Cenk, let me just show you what the peace in the Middle East looks like under the heavy influence of Israel. The IDF just shot and killed an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old in Gaza, claiming that these little children who were trying to gather firewood for their grandfather who's wheelchair bound had crossed the yellow line. But there's no evidence of that, number one. But more importantly, they referred to these kids as a threat, an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old. And there are more and more stories now coming out about how the IDF keeps killing Palestinians by claiming that they crossed the yellow line into the 53% of the territory that they're now occupying. But that wasn't actually the case. They didn't even come close to crossing the yellow line. I'll tell you what peace in the Middle East looks like when Israel has engaged in a ceasefire. They bomb Beirut, which also recently happened. They kill entire families in the middle of a so-called ceasefire. There is no peace in the Middle East with this Israeli government and the current Israeli culture essentially reigning supreme in that region of the world. That's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah, they're supremacists, and they think we are more important, our lives are more valuable than Arab lives. Arabs are fodder for our war machine, and killing Arab children is Tuesday for the IDF. Remember all the American doctors that came home horrified of all the sniper shots to children under 5 years old, headshots, chest shots. IDF is a terrorist organization, and we fund those terrorists. So now let's go to al-Shara. So I don't know what to make of him. Israel's mad at him. Apparently he hasn't bowed enough to them. If you have any dignity at all, Israel despises you. You must surrender all of your dignity, pride, respect, life, everything to Israel. Otherwise, they don't feel safe and they'll murder you. But on the other hand, to Anna's point, we previously had a $10 million bounty on his head. He was not a minor Al-Qaeda figure. He was a major Al-Qaeda figure. Now we're told that we have to murder so-called narco-terrorists, i.e. fishermen off the coast of Venezuela, because they're so dangerous. But a guy who had a $10 million bounty on his head because he was leader of Al-Qaeda in the area, now we're good friends with. So guys, it isn't about terrorism. All of that stuff is just a smokescreen for what the powerful actually want. So what does Trump want out of al-Shara? Probably deals with Arab countries, okay?
Yep.
And that's why he's supporting it. Israel's mad because they're like, how dare you have deals with any country that is not named Israel? You are to be our dog and servant, okay? And now what is Trump doing? He's doing the Biden strategy. Oh, I had a call with Netanyahu. I was so mad at him. And then afterwards, I sent him a blank check from the American taxpayers. I am so tough on Israel. Same exact thing Biden did, okay?
Yep.
No, you're not tough at all. You're a weakling, you're a coward, and you're groveling at the feet of Netanyahu. I don't know what's in the golden pager. I don't know what he whispered to you the last time he came, but at the end of this dramatic call where he upbraids Netanyahu, just like Joe Biden did, he says, can you come back for a 5th time, pretty please, to the White House? I haven't kissed your ass enough. So is there a real conflict? I don't know. At the end of the day, Israel's gonna order Trump to do something, and Trump is going to do it. That's what's happened every single time, with one exception, in my lifetime, for every American president, Democrat or Republican. But mainstream media missed it. They're like, oh, what? I can't, who's in charge? I can't tell. It's probably the terrorists that are the real problem. Israel's seeking self-defense. They literally say that. They're so maniacal. They're so detached from reality. Who took the land? Do the Arabs have it? Do the Palestinians have it? Or do the Israelis have it? Oh, right, the Israelis took all the land. I'm sure it's a coincidence.
Just to give you a sense of how aggressive Trump was in that call, Barack Ravid, who was an IDF soldier, and you should just know that. A US official said Trump told Netanyahu to take it easy when it comes to military action in Syria and not provoke the Syrian president or government.
That's Biden-like toughness.
What a tough guy. He's being a little bitch. Anyway, that does it for that story. We got to take a break. When we come back,
wait. I promise on one thing, Anna, real quick. So, guys, Ron Dermer left the Israeli government just a couple of days ago. Ron Dermer is a smart Israeli radical, and it seemed to me that he thought, let's take our wings off the table here. We got half of Gaza like we wanted. We're occupying Lebanon and Syria like we wanted. We destroyed Hamas and Hezbollah like we wanted. And America's gonna keep giving us tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. Let's take our winnings and go home. Let's wrap it up. That's the sense I got from the reporting. If Dermer left the Israeli administration, which he did, that probably means that Netanyahu is now unchained. And so what he's going to do is first cause tremendous damage to the region, then to the Israel-America relationship, and then to Jews across the world, and then to Israel itself. Because when you are filled with this much hubris, and you won't listen to rational actors, who by the way are not any better than you, I mean, just as evil to say, let's take our genocidal winnings off the table, but at least smart. No, you're gonna go in an extreme direction, and you're gonna get not just us and the Palestinians, of course, but Israel in a ton of trouble. So that's Netanyahu, who's totally and utterly out of control, and no American president will rein him in because they're servants of his. And last thing, Anna, both Trump and Biden keep, and in the entire national press, keep wondering, well, what could they do about Netanyahu? As if it's like a big mystery. Cut the funding. Is that really, that's complicated? All of you geniuses couldn't figure that out? Cut the goddamn funding. But to them, serving Israel is not a question. America must give Israel every dollar that he asks for us, so they don't even consider it an option. So they're like, what can we do as we're funneling them Billions of dollars. Oh, gee, I can't tell. No, that means you work for Israel, period.
If Trump signs on to the 20-year MOU, meaning 20 years of guaranteed US military funding for Israel, by the time that deal ends, I will be 60 years old.
No, that's a robbery. Even if they sign it, I will do everything in my power to make sure we reverse that.
Sorry, you don't matter.
No, the American people have to matter at some point. The right wing and the left wing and the center, all of us say enough already, enough. And what our politicians and our media say, we don't care about you Americans at all. We all work for Israel, and you'll pay Israel until you're dead. And then you owe them, and you better give them more money. And 300 billion isn't enough. 30 billion for a genocide isn't enough. Go back to work and work for Israel. That's what our media says. That's what our politicians say. And yes, at some point, the American people are gonna have enough of this. And they're gonna rise up and then, oh no, they don't like people from Israel. Gee, I wonder why. Shut up and give us more money, they say. Okay, no. At some point, you're gonna poke the wrong bear. And that's what Netanyahu is in the middle of doing right now.
All right, we are going to show you scum when we come back from the break. Don't miss it.
All right, back on TYT. I'm gonna read this partly because I'm confused by it and maybe somebody could help me explain. Paul Lees and 8824, it's a lot of ways to pronounce that. Anyway, says, Viva Peaceful Change, love that. Appreciate you, but why did you break with 5149 with James Lee? That's the part I don't
That's
understand.
not us. No. I know about that story. First of all, love James Lee, love his reporting. He was working as a contributor for Breaking Points, but they have separated. And I don't want to get into any potential drama about that, but that's not us at all.
Okay, yeah, I don't even know who James Lee is, but I'm sure I'm responsible for it. Yeah,
he does really good work. By the way, I think he's based in California, and I found him through his reporting on the housing market and stuff like that. But he's excellent. So please look him up if you don't know about him and support his new YouTube channel. Because I do think he does important work. I think he had interviewed Eliza Schaefer. Not Eliza. Is that his name? Anyway, whatever. He interviewed someone who might have been a little too spicy, but he does good work. And journalists should interview anyone they want to interview.
Okay. Anyway, I'm sure TYT's at fault. Okay, Haunted Dragon 9515 says, I love TYT. I'd be wearing a straitjacket if TYT was not here keeping me attached to sanity. Much love and respect to the entire crew of TYT. Thank you, brother. We appreciate that. That's a YouTube member. We love you guys. All right, on Twitch, Marley B writes, and my conspiracy theory is that Tim Pool is just a vessel that the beanie controls. Okay, we agreed with Tim today. He was nice and principled, but are we going to allow beanie jokes? Yes. It's just Vegas says he was trained by us, referring to the National Guard shooter of the National Guard. He was trained by us, then he snaps, and then they call him a terrorist. Welcome back to 2001.
Yeah.
Yep. Another guy who was trained by us was Saddam Hussein. Sina Hogaboom with a strongly worded statement. Hey, maggots, you still gonna call yourself pro-life? They're killing little kids, you all have no soul. Sina, again, tons of the right-wing voters have flipped on Israel. And by the way, credit here, a lot of them did because they're pro-life. I'm shocked by it, but they did. Tom Massey and led that cavalry, and bless his heart. But in terms of the politicians, you're 1,000,000,000% right. Pro-life my ass. They're like, oh yeah, I am so concerned about all those zygotes. Israel, here's $30 billion, go kill 20,000 Palestinian kids. Ain't none of that pro-life. BC Lizzie says, Trump's a little bitch boy. Ask Bibi back, bitch, for a biscuit, you treasonous traitor. That's their opinion.
Oh, you're so my vibe. Who was that again? What was the moniker?
BC Lizzie.
All right, BC Lizzie, I see you. You're my vibe. You're my vibe.
I was told earlier that we were going to be pro-Trump.
I'm not pro-Trump or anti-Trump. It depends on what he's doing. And right now, he's doing bad things, obviously.
Yeah, I know. It's so complicated. For the partisans, it's so complicated. Okay, who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? I don't know. How about who's doing the things that are good and who's doing the things that are bad? I know, super complicated. All right, I'm out of time. All right, we'll see you in a second.
Have you been there?
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Noble Mobile's our new carrier. If you're on Verizon or AT&T, you crazy dogs, switch right away. Same phone, same number, same contacts. You don't lose a single thing from it. TYT.com/switch. It's $50. If you're paying more than $50, it's mental not to take 5 minutes to switch. By the way, if there's any issues at all, you can just switch back. And by the way, AT&T and Verizon will pay you to switch back. Zero reason not to do it. And I got over $10 back as well from their cashback program. So I only paid $39. This is amazing. TYT.com/switch. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
No, it's really good. TYT.com/switch. We're gonna, that's us saving you guys a lot of money, and I feel really good about that. Okay, real quick, 20% off at shoptyt.com. So make sure you're checking that out too for the entire site. All right, Anna.
Let's get to our next story.
There's 3 people on it who I know, like personally know. So there's Tucker Carlson, Cenk Uygur, and Anna Kasparian. The idea that any of them are Jew haters is just ridiculous. It's just like you could only, I don't know, in the same way that Larry Ellison was the black face of white supremacy or something like that. Like only by the wokest definition of bigotry could you accuse any of those 3. I've never said anything about the Jews. Their criticism was about Israel, the Israel lobby, and wars of aggression. And then they actually put Miss Rachel on there.
The they that comedian Dave Smith is referring to is, I think it's one person behind the StopAntisemitism.com account on X. Although this individual is funded very generously, and we're going to get to who the person is behind the account and who's funding them. But before we do, let's talk a little bit about what Stop Anti-Semitism is up to. They're not at all interested in doing anything about anti-Semitism. They are interested in destroying the lives and smearing individuals who are specifically critical of the foreign nation state of Israel, which is currently devastating multiple countries in the Middle East in an effort to carry out what's referred to as the Greater Israel Project. Not only do they, happily slaughter children with absolutely no remorse, they're pretty blunt about what their intentions are. The IDF's own internal data indicates that upward of 83% of the individuals that they have slaughtered in Gaza happen to be civilians. That's not random reporting. That is the IDF's own internal documents. Now, with that in mind, StopAntisemitism.com wants to provide cover for what Israel is doing, and they're going after people like us, Cenk. Every year, they allow people to vote on who the top anti-Semite of the year should be, and in the running, we have the 10 individuals I'm about to list. So you have Tucker Carlson, Miss Rachel, and then you have actress Marcia Cross. I don't even know what she's said about Israel, to be honest with you. You and I are on the list, but Rashida Tlaib won Anti-Semite of the Year in 2023. Candace Owens won last year, but there are notably some people missing from this list. People who are just straight out saying they are anti-Semites. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But what are your 2 cents?
Yeah, so to me, this rando who puts together this BS list is not the issue. The issue is that the rest of national media takes it seriously, like Jake Tapper. Like, oh, this is very important. Who are all the terrible, terrible anti-Semites who've never said anything against Jewish people, but have dared to criticize Israel? How dare they? Okay, so that's the real issue here. This is the honor of a lifetime to be on this list, and I'm gonna explain why in a minute.
So obviously people are pointing to the absurdity of including Miss Rachel on the list. I mean, literally the only thing that she's doing is filming videos that humanize Palestinian children who have lost their limbs as a result of the military violence carried out by the IDF in Gaza. But, that's drawing attention to what the IDF is all about. And that doesn't make Israel look so good. So they're trying to destroy her reputation. It's not working. But notably, there are several people missing from the list. And that includes actual anti-Semites like Elias Rodriguez. If you're unfamiliar with him, it's probably because you either don't know about or forgot about the fact that he's the guy who shot and killed 2 Israeli embassy staff members in Washington, D.C. back in May. Not on the list, not on the list. Apparently, killing people who are Jewish because you're a disgusting anti-Semite doesn't make you qualified for this list. There's more. I'm sure you noticed Nick Fuentes isn't on the list, and that even befuddled him. He's like, why aren't I on this list? Also missing is Nick Fuentes. So StopAntisemitism.com responded to that criticism, and their response was, in a word, hilarious. So let's go to that. For those questioning why Nick Fuentes wasn't on this year's list, we have been monitoring Nick Fuentes' anti-Semitism since 2019. While he was a finalist a few years back, his absence from this year's cycle does not erase his anti-Semitism. Rather, it allows us to focus attention on other individuals who are spreading hate. We do not recycle candidates from year to year. Why not? It's obvious that they are targeting people who are specifically critical of a foreign country that this psychopath woman whose face looks like a sphincter doesn't like, so we're going to get to that in just a minute. In fact, no, why don't we get to that right now? So there has been some deep dives into StopAntisemitism.com. One of the defamation suits that they have faced had to do with the fact that they literally defamed a young hockey player at a school who, did something bad. He vandalized and did graffiti. But Stop Anti-Semitism wanted to take it a step further and claim that he was doing graffiti of swastikas, which wasn't true. In fact, rabbis at the school came out and defended this individual who we don't know the identity of. This person is a minor, but they also allowed him to apologize for the graffiti at the school during Shabbat, knowing that people weren't going to have their phones on them and they couldn't record it and then out him and destroy his life. My point is, antisemitism.com defamed him, claimed that he spray painted swastikas. That was not the case. In fact, rabbis came to his defense and debunked that. The student then filed a defamation lawsuit, and it's impossible to sue the woman who's behind this account because she uses fake building addresses and things like that to evade defamation lawsuits. So it's impossible to serve her. So who is she? Let's go to the next graphic. Loira Rez of Stop Anti-Semitism, failed fashion blogger in the business of creating consequences while desperate to avoid them herself. Last year, she used fake addresses in empty buildings to try to avoid a defamation suit. So the defamation suit that they're referring to is what I just outlined for you all. Sheldon Adelson worked alongside a convicted felon. He was convicted of felony tax evasion. His name is Adam Milstein. Adelson worked with him to basically build this network of 180 organizations like StopAntisemitism.com. And the point is not to stop anti-Semitism. The point is to smear anyone who dare be critical of Israel. In fact, here's a taste of who Adam Milstein is and the type of smear campaigns he deploys.
Milstein told Tony how critics of Israel should be handled.
First of all, investigate who they are. What's their agenda? They're picking on the Jews because it's easy, because it's popular. We need to expose what they really are. And we need to expose the fact that they're everything we believe in. And we need to put them on the run. Right now, they can do whatever they like, terrorize us, and we are... How do we put them on the run, though? Doing it by exposing who they are, what they are, the fact that they're racist, the fact that they're bigot, that they're democracy.
Do you think there's a good role to just naming them as anti-Semites?
Not just anti-Semites, it's too simple. We need to present them for what they really are. They're anti-freedom, they're anti-Christian, they're anti-democracy. That's what we need to do.
So he's referring to individuals who are part of the boycott and divest movement. He's basically just saying we just need to smear them as racist and individuals who are anti-democracy and anti-Christianity. And by the way, that propaganda campaign is currently being deployed at various Christian Zionist churches across the country. In addition to that, Stop Anti-Semitism, run by Rez, is a well-paid cog in Milstein's machine, funded by his Morona Leadership Foundation. Rez pocketed over $237,000 just in 2021 to 2022, making her the top earner at the so-called charity. And you're seeing, the advertisement for some sort of event that was held on October 31st. At the Yale Club NYC. Michael Rappaport is part of it. So is Douglas Murray, who, by the way, got caught getting paid to write speeches on behalf of Netanyahu in Israel. But he apparently has been there. And Moira Rez, by the way, the very woman who runs this account to smear people, not only asked the DOJ to investigate Miss Rachel, okay, that was reported by The Guardian. She's also a disgusting racist herself, and used an N-word slur, a variation of the N-word, to respond to a post by Representative Ilhan Omar. So a deeply disgusting racist is going around smearing other individuals who are critical of a foreign country of being anti-Semites. Cenk, back to you.
Okay, so if it's just a rando and she's not getting paid tons of money by Sheldon Adelson and she's not being featured on CNN, then who cares, right? But Jake Tapper has had her on CNN on multiple occasions. Oh, please tell us who Israel's enemies are so we could ruin their careers. I mean, who the anti-Semites are, right? And so Sheldon Adelson, who is he? And who's on the side of democracy and Christianity and the West and all these things? Notice in that secret reporting, the person supporting Israel is talking about, now don't let them find out that it's about us. We're gonna basically pretend this is to help Christians and the West and democracy. So who does Sheldon Adelson actually help? Well, he was a casino magnate. By the way, he made most of his money in China. Most of his casinos are in Macau. Only a couple are in Vegas. He makes a lot more money in China. Donald Trump helped him to bring back all of his money from China at a much reduced, instead of 35%, he brought it back at 8%. And he did Sheldon Adelson a great number of favors. One of the favors that he did for him was that he let Jonathan Pollard, one of the worst traitors in American history, fly back to Israel to give Adelson a favor. Now Adelson then flew Jonathan Pollard out in his private jet back to Israel. Like, attaboy, way to betray America. The Adelsons are super proud of you, okay?
Yep.
And then he's now passed away, and his wife has picked up the helm, Miriam Adelson. She also gave Trump $137 million in this campaign. Collectively, the Adelson family has given him over $300 million. That's almost never talked about in traditional media. Instead, it's all covered up, because if you tell people who actually work for Israel, oh my God, that's anti-Semitic. No, it's not. Like, there are Turks who would want the American government to cheat on behalf of Turkey, and there are Turks who wouldn't. And if you find some Turk who's bribing Eric Adams, the correct answer is not, you're anti-Turkist. The correct answer is, that guy's doing a bribe. We should arrest them and actually follow the law and care about this country and not other countries. But apparently, the Jake Tappers of the world are completely incapable of that. No, beloved Israel above all, let's bring on a smear merchant paid for by a guy who loved the spy who betrayed America. And let's never talk about the fact that they bought Donald Trump at over $300 million. That would be anti-Semitic, because facts have a well-known history of being anti-Semites. No, that's not anti-Semitic. My friends I have dozens of friends who are Jewish. Oh, you can't have Jewish friends, you're lying, blah, 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 whatever it is. None of them did it Nobody talked to Sheldon Adelson. Nobody talked to Mossad. Random Jewish Americans have nothing to do with this. Nothing. It's despicable. Basically, pro-Israel radicals like Miriam Adelson, a lot of people in media, obviously this lady. You say her face looks like a sphincter. I see it. As she should stop antisphincterism.com. Okay, but now I want to go back to who's on the list, right? These terrible anti-Semites. So Tucker Carlson's on the list because he talked to Nick Fuentes, but Nick Fuentes is not on the list. Now, if you're wondering why are they doing? Why not put the killer who actually killed Jews in America on a list of anti-Semites? That's the most logical thing in the world. Because this isn't about anti-Semitism. Those anti-Semites, even including the killer, in the minds of pro-Israel radicals like this lunatic, they help Israel. Because they rile up people and they go, oh, do you see this? Go look at all this anti-Semitism. We have to give Israel another $300 billion. We owe them. Look at what Nick Fuentes is doing. He's driving up anti-Semitism. Yes. They're so excited about it. That's why they almost never touch Fuentes. They only touch the people he talks to and the people that they talk to and the people that they talk to, because they're trying to eliminate critics of Israel, not of Jewish people. So that's why the real anti-Semites don't go on this list. Only the people who are fighting super aggressively against the genocide go on this list. That's why it's the honor of a lifetime. This is like being on Nixon's enemies list. This is like being honestly, on the Nazis' enemies list. Oh, you're trying to stop a Holocaust. You're anti-Germanist. You see, you're such a German hater. Yeah, okay, call me a German hater. Call me an Israel hater. Call me any kind of hater you like. It's not gonna stop me from trying to stop Israel from this ceaseless genocide. It's still going on. They killed 350 people since the so-called ceasefire. They bombed Damascus. They bombed Beirut recently, let alone the fact that they did that over and over again before. They bombed Tehran earlier, obviously. And so, no, you can call us all the dirty names you want. And by the way, two can play that game, so I'll add this here at the end. People like this woman, I don't even want to know her name, but Lyra Rez, Miriam Adelson, Adam Milstein, and yeah, I'll throw in Jake Tapper because he's their biggest cheerleader apparently. He thinks this kind of bigotry is awesome. Are bigots. They're the most anti-Muslim bigots I've ever seen. They're worse anti-Muslim bigots than any anti-Semite in the country. They're constantly trying to drive up hatred towards Muslims in America. You should hate the Muslims. The Muslims are terrorists. The Muslims are savages. Israel had to kill the Muslims and take their land. They had to take their land for self-defense. Why did they have to take the land? Jake, 53% of Gaza is now occupied by your beloved Israel. So they stole that land. Oh, you can't say that, that's anti-Semitic. No. You're not allowed to criticize Israel in any way. No, that doesn't have anything to do with Jews. What are you talking about? Just because you call yourself a Jewish state doesn't mean that A, you get to do whatever you want. I have a magic community idol. I called it a Jewish state, so you're not allowed to criticize it. Otherwise, I ruin your career. And that is the point of this list, is so that Jake Tapper can go on air and go, now remember everybody, all of these people that are on this list should never be allowed in media, should never be allowed to criticize Israel, should never be allowed to do anything ever in America. They have been banned as anti-Semites of the year. So remember, everybody who's pro-genocide is a good guy. Everyone who's anti-genocide is a stupid, dirty Muslim, a Muslim lover. But you see how concerned I am about bigotry.
I just want to send a message to Lyra Rez. All right. I would rather get down on my knees and scrub toilets for a living than be silenced by a disgusting, hideous, sad excuse for a human being that you happen to be. I'm not afraid of you. I don't care if every single place I'm employed by fires me. If that means that I get to speak the truth about what Israel is actually up to, I'm gonna keep doing it. And I'm gonna suffer the consequences. Because to me, money is nothing when it comes to censorship. I would rather trade the money for being able to speak the truth. So I'm not afraid of you. And besides which, everyone thinks you're a joke anyway.
Yeah.
So congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I'm going to say one last thing here, guys. So for the Laura Rezes of the world, I double down on what Anna said. There's nothing that's going to get me to kneel to Israel. I know if you don't bow your head to Israel, they want to destroy your life, right? And so again, guys, please, 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 I have Jewish family. Don't take it out on random Jews. It's these particular radicals that are doing it. In fact, that goes to my last point, which is Laura Rez, Netanyahu, Ben Gvir, Smotrich, Netanyahu, Sheldon Adelson, Miriam Adelson, and yes, the people in traditional media who aid and abet them, drive up anti-Semitism more than anything else I have ever seen. They're like, okay, now remember, if anyone dares to criticize a genocide, we destroy their lives and let them know we're doing it. No, 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 what are you doing? What are you doing? You're gonna get my Jewish family and friends into trouble with this maniacal actions of being pro-genocide and demanding that everyone know and bow down. If you're not pro-genocide, you're against Jews. No, don't say that. Don't say that. You're doing untold damage. But no, for them, forget Jews, forget Americans, forget everyone. They're so obsessed with Israel that they'll try to destroy everything in their path to help the country that they actually love.
Yeah. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back.
All right, back on TYT here. Let's go to super chat for a sec. Box says, congrats, Cenk and Anna, for getting on the silly list. You're welcome, or thank you. Fawaz Synthetic Soul says, good to see Anna. I found an unbiased Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, source explaining why Hamas attacks showing Israel's responsibility. Since I'm not on X, I find if I find overlooked but crucial articles on Israel's genocide, how can I reach you? You can do it through the website, tyt.com. For decades, the US government has shown sympathy to Netanyahu's warmongering, bloodthirsty policies. This support fuels the greater Israel agenda, ignoring Palestinian suffering. TYT must highlight these truths with these credible sources that expose accountability. Well, we do, brother. We try as hard as we possibly can. He continues, they're focused on anti-Semitism, missing the real hate. Whoever made that poster should be on a list for being anti-Muslim shills for greater Israel agenda. They want to turn the whole Middle East into a parking lot for Zionist expansionism while pretending to care about the most moral state. Yeah, and by the way, everyone in traditional media lies about how Israel's a democracy, only democracy in the Middle East. What kind of democracy imprisons 5.5 million people and doesn't give them any rights, does a blockade, starves them, kills them, takes their land? That's not a democracy. That's a brutal dictatorship in the occupied territories. So almost everything you've ever heard about Israel is a lie told to you by the American press that largely favors Israel for a combination of different reasons. It's really sick how they think they manufactured hatred towards Muslims on an industrial scale so that Israel can grab more of their land and go, oh, I was just defending myself against these barbarians, these savages. I had to murder them before they looked at me kind of funny. And I had to steal their land because I wanted to for greater Israel. But all of American media be my dogs and never talk about greater Israel. Although in Israel, we talk about greater Israel all the time. All of our government officials are obsessed with greater Israel, and they say they're instituting greater Israel. That's why they're taking the land of the Palestinians. But American media, if you ever say it, will put you on a list of top anti-Semites and ruin your career. By the way, if you think they're not trying to ruin our careers, you don't know how this thing works. That's their whole point, is to destroy anyone who dares oppose their beloved Israel. Okay, don't shoot on the goalkeeper says on tyt.com, imagine being offended by Miss Rachel. Yeah, that's monsters are offended by Miss Rachel. So what a terrible, dumb mistake to put her on. Oh, she's just, imagine if they did this again during the Holocaust. Oh, you're showing poor Jewish kids who had amputated legs. You're anti-German. I'm gonna put you on an anti-German list, okay? You're filled with hatred for Germans just because you're showing the poor Jews that they're murdering and the poor Jewish kids that they've maimed. You anti-Germans. You're the real problem in this country. Okay, and that's literally what they're doing now. That's literally what they're doing on behalf of Israel. If you're offended by that analogy, I don't care at all. You should be much more offended by the genocide that Israel is committing barbarically and won't stop. All right, Anna, we only have a minute, so I'm gonna read some comments before we go to Operation Joy. So Winter Scoop says it's super funny that they can't use the worst angry face for the anti-Semites. Miss Rachel's picture is lovely. Yeah, there's no way to smear her. Cabbage says every kid and adult needs a Miss Rachel. Navinik says in a weird way, Lackawanna guy probably went through US military vets returning from combat to go through. A hard time readjusting to ungrateful society. Visionary says, Jake, what makes you think Robert Maxwell actually stole top secret nuclear documents and or wasn't aided and abetted by some in the US government? Why was he allowed to escape to Israel? Why was there no serious attempt to indict, prosecute, or extradite him? Why did the USA not even blink regarding providing further billions in aid in perpetuity to that same country? That's because we are ruled by Israel. It would be preposterous not to arrest the guy who stole our nuclear secrets. Instead, we let him buy the textbooks that our kids read. Operation Joy's next. All right, back on TYT, Operation Joy time. So this is when we try to bring a little bit of bliss into the world. That's crazy talk, right? But we do crazy stuff all the time. So I'm gonna read you guys some stuff from tyt.com/joy, my favorite webpage on the planet. And then meanwhile, you guys write in, tell us your stories of joy. Some folks wrote in even yesterday. Couldn't contain themselves, and I love it. We got some doozies today, so let's go to Jack Callahan first. This is a nice one about me, and I appreciate him, and then the rest is about other people. But Jack wrote in, my joy was Jenks, but it's mainly about him. My joy was Jenks' postlude after Monday's November 24th show after the revolution. I was in the middle of cooking, so I couldn't respond like I did during the regular show. I bring this up as it warmed my heart hearing his journey of becoming a journalist and the travails of working hard with little money, finding money, then following a truth path with no strings attached to pursue truth. So let me pause there for a second, then I'm gonna read the rest of it. So what I'm doing now after the revolution segments is most of the time, unless there's a person I'm interviewing in the studio, I'm going to a bonus episode for the members. So the members are still getting a bonus episode, even though we're making this half hour that used to be for the members public. I'm telling different stories in that time. That day I haven't told the story of all my career track, starting in radio, public access, then radio, then MSNBC and here. And we talked about how I turned down money a bunch of times. It's interesting, but if you're a member, make sure you're checking out those bonus episodes. I think they're kind of fun and interesting. Anyway, Jack continues, it resonated completely to me as I took a path. knowing I'd never have money, but it didn't matter as I accomplished my calling as a professional musician. It was a lifetime dream to play violin in professional orchestras, and I succeeded. I always managed to support myself with many difficult times. Yet how many people can say they accomplished what they love doing? Oh, here, brother. So Jack continued, so I applaud you, Jang, because you accomplished your goal of speaking truth to power, and that is no small thing. I've known you since MSNBC days when I came back to New Orleans after Katrina, and because of a fluke, I had free cable. I noticed you back then and said, damn, that brother's speaking truth. Please keep going with the gas pedal to the floor, and I pray that someday we can meet and shoot the breeze. Thanks for the joy that you and the fine folks at TYT give me. It's wonderful. So Jack, so I know Jack through Operation Hope, and brother, thank you for writing that in, and not just about me, but to tell me your life story on that. And I knew that you were a professional musician, but you added some details there that were relevant. I think you made a super bold choice, brother. I mean, and your choice is bolder than mine, because I can theoretically get rich one of these days working in media, right? Like, so yeah, I've turned it down a bunch of times to do the right thing, but I'm still in the ball game, right? When you go to become a professional violin player in an orchestra, you know you're never going to be a billionaire, right? Or probably a millionaire. And you do that anyway because you love it so much. And I just can't tell you how much I appreciate your strength and courage in doing that when all of society is telling you not to do it. I appreciate that you found your joy and then had and were brave enough to pursue it once you found it. And at significant cost to you in other ways, right? And I love that boldness. I love it. And my guess is that it brought you a lot more joy than if you were doing some other corporate job or whatever it is that you didn't want to do. Yeah, you make more money. Yeah, that has positive effects. But I remember when I was a lawyer, God, I was miserable every day. Every day I was miserable. Nothing's worth that. And everybody's different. I'm having dinner with a friend tonight who loves being a lawyer. So, as a famous philosopher once said, you do you, boo. And you did. You lived that life. So that's being true to yourself is the most important thing, and you did it for a whole lifetime. All right, Tug and Tubin writes in, I promised Anna pictures from my trip to Italy, Switzerland, and Slovenia. So here they are. We'll show it to you in a sec. This was a great trip. I visited places I've already been, new places close by, and completely new places. I learned that Italy is lovely in the rain, and Slovenia is a Kentucky kind of place. Slovenes eat survival food like us, pot roast, stews, and deer. And the fall leaves are changing just like back home, with picturesque lakes and rivers on the mountains, near the caves, and on the farms. We also share a history of grit and perseverance that eventually delivered a happy ending for the Slovenes. By the way, I'm going to pause there for a second. A lot of folks writing in from Kentucky, one of my favorite states today, so that's awesome. I love that. And we're going to show you the pictures and make sure that Anna sees it too. But the reason Anna's not here is because she was sick today, but she's a trooper and she did the show anyway because she could not do it. She wanted to cover the story so badly. But anyways, that's why I wanted to let you know she's not here right now. But they continue. After centuries under the Byzantine, Holy Roman, Habsburg, and Russian control with encroachments from the Italians, Turks, hey, wait a minute, anti-Turkist, Germans and Serbs, the rest are fine. You could criticize the rest. The people of Slovenia finally achieved self-determination in 1991 because this gives me such hope as a black-pilled American previously convinced that change is impossible. But the gravity of change was undeniable as I walked the streets of a new democracy born of authoritarian communism. Slovenia is navigating a precarious balance of open markets, which the people craved, with protecting social welfare and an ongoing national conversation. We visited the city of Ljubljana, God help me, and Lake Bled as the highlight of the trip. The lake along the Julian Alps was so beautiful that it doesn't look like a real place. I visited Milan, Lake Como, Lugano, that's in Switzerland, Venice, Trieste, there's Ljubljana again, and Lake Bled. The picture of me eating a doner kebab is for Cenk. All right, so let's show that one first. All right, doner kebab, there you go. You know what? Hold on, before we show the other pictures. You know, these hilarious pro-Israel commentators are now all in unison talking about the Muslims are going to take over America. The Muslims are coming. They're about to take, they already took Minnesota, it's gone. They already took Michigan, that's gone. And there's this crazed lady running for Congress in Texas who called me a dirty Muslim yesterday. I was like, God, like Washington is so hilarious. Laura Loomer has a desk at the Pentagon now. She's a bigger bigot than Nick Fuentes. And I'm not joking, I've heard both of them, and Fuentes says a lot of terrible things. Laura Loomer says worse things, but she says it about Muslims. So everybody's like, oh, no big deal, come on in. We got a seat for you, everything's fine, no problem at all, right? And so all these guys are like, Ben Shapiro and the others, it's so coordinated, it's so obvious. The real problem is the Muslims. We can't allow them into the country. They're a real danger. I mean, they should be attacked at all times, right? Everybody's like, yeah, that's totally fine. Totally fine. They're conquering us. The Muslims are about to conquer all of America. I mean, can you imagine anything more laughable? And by the way, of all people on planet Earth, the other day, Nick Fuentes was like, are you guys kidding? I mean, he basically is like, look, I'm not a big fan of Muslims, to say the least, and they are taking over Europe, and I hate it, and other demographics are taking over America, and I don't like it, right? So it's not like he's hiding anything, right? He's being very blatant about his views on different races and religions. He goes, but they're taking over America? When did that happen? It's like, that's absurd. Of course that's not happening, right? So, but every pro-Israel commentator right now is Muslims are taking over, taking over. So why did I say all that? And they all point to Europe. You see how the Muslims destroyed Europe. Europe doesn't even exist anymore. It's now Baghdad, okay? Whatever they say. The one thing we actually did take over, doner kebabs. You're welcome. They're all over Europe and everybody loves them. All right, anyway, here's the other pretty pictures. All right, gorgeous, you crazy? Gorgeous, okay. My wife's cousin had a wedding in the middle of Lake Garda, which is close to Lake Como in Italy. How could it be in the middle of a lake? There's actually an island and like a castle on top of the island. I was just like one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And so it was gorgeous. So I could relate with those pictures. That's awesome. Love to see that. Thank you for sharing. All right, let's go to Sil Lu. Joy is knowing how much my small town cares for others. Every Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day, we have a community dinner. It's called that because it's for everyone, rich, poor, homeless, lonely, etc. Last year, we fed 2,400 meals. It doesn't sound like a lot for some place like LA or New York, but our population is in Kentucky and only 21,000. This also doesn't count other parties and giveaways for Christmas on other days. One charity even does monthly senior boxes. Another one gives away medical gear to those who can't afford it. But thank you for sharing that story. One, apparently it's Kentucky Day on TYT. Number two, I love that story. Isn't that beautiful to be able to get together with the community and deliver for everyone? Look, it's actually, you say, oh, we're not LA or New York. Actually, you can do it better because you're not LA or New York. When there's too many people in a city, we lose all connection with others, right? Are the people in LA one community? No, we're like thousands of different communities, maybe even more, right? I don't feel like the people in LA are about, oh my God, LA pride, and right? Whereas in a town of 21,000, you love that town. There's definitely pride and loyalty and community there and looking out for one another. Like when I grew up in East Brunswick, we had about 50,000 or so people that lived there at the time. There's a suburb of New York and that's in central Jersey. And yeah, we were proud that we were from East Brunswick. And because it was a smaller town and we were a community. And it was this little group of like, Jews, Asians, Indians, Turks, Russians, white people, black people, Latinos, Vietnamese, Koreans, Chinese, you name it, right? And we were proud that we were that little melting pot. And so anyways, love it. And it made me want to do some sort of meal together, but God, we're all so busy in our stupid lives. And then organizing a meal, I was like, oh, I got exhausted thinking about it. And then plus, it's tough these days. There are forces that are besieging us. So anyways, but thank you for that beautiful story. Wedge writes in, so during last week's Operation Joy, Nail Biter edition, the dilapidated swing set. I was heads down cleaning the house in preparation for holiday guests, show blaring in the background, and I'd forgotten that I wrote in the week before. Every once in a while I'd hear a sound bite like swing set, playground, dilapidated. When all of a sudden it dawned on me, holy cow, they're talking about me. I gotta say that was a ton of fun watching Cenk and Anna psychoanalyze my motivation for tearing down a dilapidated swing set, then second guessing myself, etc. So a couple of quick responses. I'm not OCD as far as I can tell, but I am definitely ADHD. So close, Cenk, but Anna got it. Also, I'm not feeling societal pressure whatsoever in doing this. I've just been thinking about wanting a fire pit for a long time. You should have mentioned that earlier, Wedge. That could have swung the vote. A sweet outdoor spot for sitting around with good friends, guitars, and whiskey. Sorry, Anna. Yeah, that sounds really good. Now I might change my vote. Anyway, epilogue. I enjoyed replaying the show to my 3 daughters, who also had fun and plenty of comments, and mea culpa. This time, I did upload a few pics along with a personal declaration to gladly accept my status as on the hook. With last week's poll results showing 52% in favor of keeping the swing set, I see the wisdom in not risking the loss of frickin' frack and also getting to keep those bittersweet memories of my precious daughters growing up. Plus, I can't put a damper on those 2 little characters just trying to get it on. Thanks, Anna. Hats off, TYT. I'm always uplifted by this wonderful community that you've made possible, which just so happens to also be the baddest ass news show going. Love and respect. Right back at you. All right, let's take a look at it. That doesn't even look that dilapidated, but it's not a close-up, so I can't tell. Wait, no, it does look dilapidated. You're right. Because the left side is sunken in, right? Still want to go down that swing, though. I mean, that slide. Okay, now we know. I love it. I love being able to visualize it. So thank you for sending that in. Okay, last one from tyt.com/joy, and then we'll do yours from today. The one true coffee dragon says, took my son to the circus this weekend and it was amazing. Might literally be the first time I've gone since I was 4, a bit older now. They put on an excellent show and I was honestly on the edge of my seat. My son totally loved it. The entertainment equivalent of touching grass. Now I'm spending an unscheduled day off with my daughter as she recovers from the flu. I'd say she's pretty recovered. That puts the picture of her hanging upside down. Yeah, she does look pretty recovered indeed. Look, circuses aren't for me. I remember going and thinking, okay, this is what I thought it was gonna be. Okay, but by the way, Cirque du Soleil, can't stand it. But to each his own. To each his own. It's amazing. I just don't know why they're doing it. But I love that you enjoyed it, and most importantly, got to spend time with your son, which is great, and that your son loved it. Thanks for writing in all these beautiful stories. And not only is it literally makes me happy. I hope it does just for some degree to you guys as well. And look, guys, joy is definitely an act of defiance these days. And I don't mean it just generally as we've talked about before. I also mean it in terms of consumerism and corporatism and all the other things that are afflicting us now. They want you to be miserable and then alleviate that misery by buying something, right? And in the case of the airlines, as we've talked about many times, they literally have calculated misery planned into their product. That's amazing, right? So the point is to make you miserable until you buy some junk that they want you to buy. So defy them and be happy without the junk. Okay, you don't have to buy their crap. If you like it and it's good product, great, God bless, buy it, right? If it helps you in your life, you save money, whatever it is, right? But you don't need that for joy. You need 5 minutes of solitude where you think of positive things. You need, and by the way, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't spend any money. Like for example, one true coffee dragon spent money to go to the circus, but spent quality time with their son. That's what you want, right? And you could also do that at home. I mean, look, I spent 4 days straight with my kids, time of my life, right? So did I buy the Risk set and the Monopoly set? At some point, I was gonna say the Power Baron set. Actually, one of you guys sent that in, so I didn't buy that one. But all these different board games, but yeah, it's a small amount of money, right? But those hours of board games we played, irreplaceable, an act of defiance. instead of going and spending more and more money on some other junk at the mall or wherever, we actually spent time at home enjoying each other's company and me getting my ass handed to me. I'm supposed to be invincible in Power Barons. I lost to a child. Okay, but there's gonna be a revenge game. Anyways, that was my joy over the weekend, and it didn't have anything to do with consumerism. So I wrote it out last week. I don't know if any of you printed it out and put it on anywhere in your houses, but come on, rebel against this society, rebel against the system, and be happy. All right, Winter Scoop writes in, finding joy in the smallest of things. Cenk read my Miss Rachel comment. Hashtag nice. Happy to do it. Hannah Hartman wrote, in my current joy, we put up our Christmas tree a couple of days ago, and my cat Billy has been napping underneath it nonstop. Beautiful, love it. We haven't gotten the Christmas tree yet, but we do. We are the most pro-Christmas non-Christian family you'll ever find. None of us grew up Christian, but we love Christmas. Christmas is for all of us. Santa doesn't discriminate, okay? Disruptor Post writes in, I have a story I'm hoping to post soon about my 5-day adventure trying to hitchhike out of San Diego. It gives Forrest Gump a run for his money. Looking forward to it. Who doesn't like a good Forrest Gump story? Like my dad, if you read his book, that's also on shoptyt.com, 20% off now. You're allowed to buy that one. Called Original Young Turk. My dad, if you read that book, is kind of like a Turkish Forrest Gump. Shows up in the middle of a revolution, meets JFK, like just one amazing story after another in amazing circumstances. So I can relate, at least through my dad. Benjamin says, this was fun, built it out of cardboard. Wow, oh, I see it now. So I can't show it to you guys, it's a picture, but I thought it was a plant, and it turns out he made it out of cardboard. Way to go, Benjamin. Burrito Bandito says, Cenk, what did you have for Thanksgiving? Okay, guys, I mean, you want to talk about joy, and I'm not exaggerating. I've never had anyone eat my mom's turkey and not say it was the best turkey they ever had. So she does something miraculous with it so that it's filled with the juice, okay? The turkey juice is amazing. You dip your bread into it in the beginning, that's how I got like this. The turkey's so juicy, it's amazing. So we had the turkey, and then she made börek, which is like this thing with phyllo dough that's got cheese, and then she put pastrama in it, which is like a Turkish pastrami. Oh, okay. And then we had stuffing, and we had just, my daughter Joy baked us a whole bunch of cookies, sugar cookies, chocolate chip cookies. I mean, look, God bless America, right? What can we just say? Look, I know that Thanksgiving got off to a rocky start with the Native Americans, so nothing wrong with pointing that out. Nothing wrong with getting better. Okay. At the same time, nothing wrong with enjoying Thanksgiving, because look at this country. We created a holiday out of being grateful. That's kind of awesome. We made that up, and it's a great thing to make up, because being grateful leads to more happiness. What you do when you're grateful is you double down on your happiness. You remember your happiness and you focus on it and you appreciate it. It kind of quadruples your happiness. And to do a whole holiday where we're all grateful for the different things we have in our lives, beautiful, beautiful. And yes, I did a little bit of Thanksgiving with Haas as well. Much more civil disagreement this time around. Anyway, you can check it out whenever you get a chance. Okay, Bigger Picture says, on Thanksgiving Eve, I went shopping for Thanksgiving dinner. Standing in line to pay, it appeared the young couple with their baby was unable to pay for their items. I ended up paying their items, wow. On the way home, my brother called me and he did the same thing with another family. The joy was on Thanksgiving Day, my neighbor brought me a plate of food to eat for Thanksgiving. She thought of me while she was at her family's house. Pay it forward, folks. It's such a joyous feeling. And thank you, Mom, for raising good kids. We're not doctors or lawyers, just really hard workers who care about others. That's just perfect. It's perfect, brother. And I want you to focus on the most important part of his message, which is helping others brings you joy. You're not just helping them, you're helping yourself. Again, it's a little crazy not to do it, because I know why you don't, like folks don't do it at different times, right? You might be busy, or you might not have a lot of money, or you might not have this or that. I totally get it. I'm not judging anyone for it, right? But every time I help someone, it makes me feel better. So why wouldn't I want to do that over and over again? So, and a lot of you share stories about how you've helped out someone in Operation Joy, because it almost invariably leads to that. I did think for a second there. I have helped some folks with their careers who wound up not being as grateful, but I'm still good with it, guys. Because if you are so worried that one or two guys are gonna be dirtbags afterwards and lie about you or whatever in this field, that happens unfortunately with some regularity, then you're not we did a calculation the other day. There's been 100 progressives that have come through TYT, 100. We've been around 23 years, right? So 3 of them turn out not so great. Okay, what am I gonna do? Even if 10 of them, 20 of them did turn out not so great. We gave an opportunity to the 80 others. And I'll do it again and again and again, okay? And then one more thing that was great in that comment there. Way to be appreciative of your parents, right? And by the way, of what you do today. Who cares about being a doctor or a lawyer, right? I was a lawyer, it sucked. What's much more important is what Jack said in the beginning, which is actually enjoying your life. You're a hard worker, love it. You look out for others, others look out for you. You got an awesome life. So do we all want a little bit more money for the next thing and the next thing? Yes, including me, right? But while you're sometimes legitimately earning for that, it's okay to also at the same time be deeply appreciative of what you have. And I love that you are appreciative of your parents. And it's obvious from your message that they did raise you right. It's Just Vegas writes in on Twitch, making chicken enchiladas for dinner, that's joyful, right? LOL. No, it is. If that's what you love, absolutely. Look, I get way too much joy from food. It definitely counts. Green New Dealer Dragon says, Thanksgiving was my joy. Cenk interviewing the next president of the USA, Hassan Piker 2028. That's funny. A little less likely, okay, but hey, he's an American citizen. He was born in America. That makes it a little bit more likely than me. Although you know my feelings about that, but all right, there you go. He's got his first vote. Microgram says, I'm gonna visit some family and get dinner if that counts. Of course that counts. Alyssa, I saw your note. I don't know if I should read it on air or not, but yeah. So Micrograms, good contributor to the show, and anything that gives you joy counts, brother, okay? And you know what I say all the time, which is low bar. Keep your bar low on purpose. This is the one thing that George W. Bush got right. He said, trick is keep expectations low. Right. Now that's true of him as a politician. He kept them very low, and then for some, he cleared it enough, right? For all of us, let's keep what makes us happy as a low bar. And so, I'll say one last thing and then we'll wrap it up today. And thank you for everyone who participated. Sometimes when I get happy over little things, people say I'm crazy, literally. And folks here have said I'm crazy, and for understandable reasons. So I'll give you an example. I even soak in pain, right? So I've told stories about how I was in some degree of pain in different times, and I thought, I'll soak it in. I'll soak in fear. I'll soak in different emotions that are negative, sadness, etc. Because we're alive. Being alive is 1 billion times better than not being alive. So everything that happens to you while you're alive is a gift of some sort. Okay, so I understand that that's really out there, right? And that's not for everyone. And that'll take you, if you ever get there, that'll take you a while to get there. But if you get there like I have, boy, man, that's the very end, kind of the end of the road. But there's so much joy on the way there, right? Because I start with things that give me a lot of joy, and then a medium amount of joy, and a little bit, until I'm at pain, and I'm still trying to soak that in, right? So my point is, sometimes society kind of shames you, right? Oh, what are you, happy over that little thing? Yeah, I am. What are you gonna do about it? Get in a fight over it. No, don't do that. So seriously, like, yeah. It's like, if somebody calls you crazy because you're too happy, that's a giant win. That's a giant win. Be crazy. Dare to be happy. So, and look, last thing is always a last thing and a super last thing. So I guess this is the super last thing. I say this all the time on this Operation Joy, right? I don't want anything Pollyannish. You don't want anything Pollyannish. Oh, everything is great. Oh, I don't have to pay my rent. No, you got to pay your rent. There's no way around that, right? But for everything else, like there's no reason not to be as happy as you can be. Don't listen to people telling you not to do it, like judging you for it, or going. And you know the number one person, and why I brought it up, the number one person that does that is you. Like, and I'm saying, speaking for myself, and my guess is for a lot of you. You project onto others, oh, they're gonna think I'm crazy if I do this or that, right? And then you prevent yourself from doing it. That's not them, that's you, right? You're projecting that thought onto them and then having it projected back onto you, right? So don't stop yourself. It's so easy to be angry, it's so easy to be sad. I'm those things a lot of the tons of times, not a lot of the time, but tons of times. I was angry today on a bunch of things, right? But you don't have to stay in that state. It doesn't make you cooler, it doesn't make you tougher, it doesn't make you more responsible to be unhappy. So give it a shot. In fact, if there's one thing you're gonna try the hardest at, it shouldn't be trying to make money or get status or get fame or get anything. It should be to try as hard as you can to be happy. Because why are you even getting those things? Why are you getting the products? Why are you getting the status? Why are you trying to get the wealth? To be happy. So why don't you just cut that crap out and go straight to happy? Take the shortcut. It is actually possible. It's not easy, guys. I'm not saying it's easy, but if you keep practicing, you can get there. And there's no reason why that wouldn't be a beautiful thing. Low bar, go enjoy life, go enjoy the little things, go enjoy the medium things, go enjoy the big things. I love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
The key for me is to keep expectations low.